Imagine you're scrolling through Reddit late at night and you come across something that feels wrong. Not a classic disturbing video, not a post you can easily explain. No, something that was truly never meant to be seen. Something that unsettles you in a way you can't shake and makes you wonder who posted it and why. Today, we're diving into the corners of Reddit that are untouched. The posts, the notes, and the stories that Reddit tries to hide. Make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. And now let's dive in and uncover some of Reddit's unseen horrors. The Schuylkill Notes. I have a friend that works as a chef in Philadelphia. We were talking about Reddit recently, and I was asking him about different topics I could cover for this video. And as we're talking, he goes, "Have you covered the Schuylkill Notes already?" And I'd never heard of that before. And I tell him as much. His eyes light up and he starts frantically searching for a picture. One he can't seem to find. And I'm sitting there asking him, "What the hell are the Schuylkill Notes?" And my friend replies, "My restaurant got one." About 2 years ago, when he was a young sous chef working at a local Philadelphia restaurant, I won't say which one, I don't want to dox him, but it's a very popular restaurant. He was prepping food for that night's dinner service when the delivery truck came. Now, for those of you who don't know how a restaurant works, about twice a week, restaurants get shipments of food from distributors. They come in large cardboard boxes, dozens and dozens of them, and the kitchen staff are responsible for breaking them down and unloading the grocery. They're often from the same company, from the same place, and the whole affair is standard kitchen work. Nothing out of the ordinary. So, while my friend is prepping, the other cooks are unloading. They open up the boxes, stock the shelves, the freezer, the walk-in, organizing by date and time so the oldest food gets used first. First in, first out, my friend calls it. After about an hour, one of the chefs calls him over. "Look at this," the chef says. Inside one of the sealed boxes, a note, typed onto a small piece of paper. It contained a series of insane ramblings about RFK, Social Security, the Eiffel Tower, all disguised by a dense, complicated code. He never did find the photo, but he linked me to a niche subreddit with very few views, dedicated to those users who found notes of their own. And needless to say, I've been honestly losing my mind over this. This is one of the most disturbing and perplexing mysteries I have ever dived into, and the implication of what it all means is honestly horrifying. Now let's go back to 2018. A user named Mattis makes a post to r/WTF titled, "Found the ramblings of a schizophrenic conspiracy theorist in my driveway after I got home from work today. I have so many questions." The body of the post is a single picture. The user is holding a yellowed note in his hand. Now the text is a little convoluted, so I'm reading for clarity here. The note begins with one word, in big black bold. "Lies, terrorism, drug importing, and illegal immigration are destabilizing efforts of secret societies. Churchill, writing on destabilization, said the Illuminati is the root of every subversive movement of the 19th century. Socialism, Islamic terrorism, university radicalism, public education, and the KKK grew out of the Illuminati. It includes the Vatican and its SS, Jesuits, Masons, etc., working with SS from other religions." The note continues to rant about racist conspiracy theory propaganda, and the user is rightly confused. So are the people in the comments. They talk about how this man must be crazy. There are plenty of crazies just like him. Some nurses and social workers tune in, sharing their own experiences with similar notes and drawings. But one user comments something strange. "Did you find this in Pennsylvania by chance? I've come across this exact paper a few times in town. No one knows where they are coming from." And then the OP replies saying, "I did actually. I'm about 45 minutes out of Harrisburg." The commenter too is nearby. He lives in Williamsport, which is about an hour away from Harrisburg, just 15 minutes further from the OP. To them, this is not a coincidence. It's creepy. Someone is leaving these notes in their Pennsylvania neighborhood, and it's been happening for a while. Someone else joins the conversation. Entertained by the story and the proximity between these two accounts, he makes a recommendation. You two should assemble a ragtag group of neighborhood vigilantes and get to the bottom of this. None of these people knew that this user had just posted the first online account of a massive nationwide mystery that would become more convoluted and dangerous than anyone could have possibly imagined. And nobody's talking about it because nobody knows. 5 years later, a community of internet sleuths create a subreddit dedicated to hunting this person down and trying to decipher one of Pennsylvania's biggest unknown mysteries, the radical, illegible notes that we now call the Schuylkill Notes. So, what are these Schuylkill Notes? Well, the note I began reading to you, the first one ever officially found, was something of a proto-note. It's mostly legible. The ideas it was trying to communicate were much more clear, but as the years went on, more notes began to surface. Clearly by the same author. They were written in the same font, text, and about the same size as the original notes. And here's an example of one of the new notes. And I'm not going to read you any of this, firstly, because it's mostly just symbols mixed in with actual words that are compressed into unintelligible garbage, but the content of it is insane. In it, we see similar themes to the first note, but it's become much more unhinged. And these notes are everywhere. People have found them all across the eastern United States, mostly in Pennsylvania, but others have been found as far away as Germany. And as we scroll through the subreddit, we see 10 notes, 20 notes, 50, 100. At first, people were finding them in the woods, along natural trails. Most of these were discovered tied up in trees in rural Pennsylvania, under benches, on rocks, or wrapped in plastic. Someone posts, found a note in Auburn, Pennsylvania, shortly after Christmas. It was wrapped in plastic with a paperclip, then thumbtacked to a tree trunk behind a leaf. I did not unwrap since I already found several in Landingville a few years ago. Found my second note on the Appalachian Trail this past month. The first one was just outside of Duncannon, and this one was about 8 miles NOBO in from 183. Others found them in facilities or in the pockets of thrift store clothing. Found in the bathroom at the Rockport access point. Found in a pair of pants I got at Jubilee. Super freaky, man. Just found it on the floor in my house randomly. And the consensus is the same. These notes clearly were not written by any sane person. Whoever it is, they've got some serious mental health issues. In the prevalence of the notes, the disparity between locations, and the sheer number of them indicates a very obsessive, unhinged individual. Someone says it's clearly someone who is very mentally ill wanting to spread their message. And for a while, that's all it was. Some crazy person with an agenda, a printer, and a lot of free time, trying to spread their doctrine as far and as wide as possible. But as time went on, more notes began to surface. The message continued to devolve into garbled mania, and things were about to get a lot scarier. And just like my friend the chef, people began finding notes in their food. Energy drink mix, Cheez-Its, cookies, pasta boxes, Crystal Light, and the list goes on and on. And now this brings up a very unsettling fact. Somehow, some way, this man was getting access to sealed food products. And to understand the real gravity of this situation, we need to discuss another case, one from almost 30 years earlier. So let's roll back the clock. September 29th, 1982, Chicago, Illinois. 12-year-old Mary Kellerman, who should be getting ready for school, is instead being comforted by her parents. When she woke up, it was obvious she wasn't feeling well. Runny nose, a sore throat, and a bad headache. Most likely, she has a cold. People described her as easy to be around. She's a happy, warm, normal little girl. Everyone loves seeing her at school, but today, she'll need to stay home. Her father, Dennis, gives her something to ease her uncomfortable symptoms and tells her to go back to bed. get some rest. You'll feel better tomorrow." But for little Mary, there would be no tomorrow. A couple of minutes later, Dennis hears the sound of a terrible fall. He rushes to his daughter's side and finds her convulsing on the floor, still in her pajamas. Medical services are called and Mary is rushed to the hospital, but there's no saving her. At approximately 9:56 a.m., she's pronounced dead. The cause? Poisoning, but not just any poison, potassium cyanide, one of the strongest and most deadly poisons on planet Earth. In the coming days, 6 more people would die mysteriously, all of them poisoned. All of them potassium cyanide. Investigators soon discovered a common thread between all of these victims. They had all been feeling a little sick, and they'd all taken extra strength Tylenol. Mary Kellerman was the first victim in what is now known as the 1982 Tylenol poisonings. An investigation followed shortly thereafter, but no person has ever been convicted of the crime, and today there are no leads. It remains one of the most disturbing and devastating mysteries in modern American history, and because of this, millions of bottles of Tylenol were pulled from grocery shelves, and come November of the same year, all food and drug products were required to institute tamper-proof seals. What that means is, no one outside of manufacturing could ever tamper with our food or our medications ever again. At least, that was the idea. But the very existence of the Schuylkill Notes presents a very serious and obvious problem. Some psycho has access to the things we eat, and whoever the person is, no matter their intentions, they are in a very dangerous and powerful position. Sure, right now, the Schuylkill Notes are exactly what they are: insane little notes, a string of crazy ramblings and disturbing opinions. But what happens if they don't get the reaction they want? I mean, these notes are being put out for a reason, right? Nobody goes around and prints hundreds of consistent but unique notes, places them in hundreds of different places, miles and miles apart, in every public and private location imaginable for no reason. So, what's the goal? And what are people doing to stop this from escalating into another nationwide tragedy? Well, to understand the why, we first have to understand the notes themselves, and thankfully, the group on r/Schuylkill Notes has done some amateur sleuthing. There's a couple of theories, but I'm more aligned with this user, NonSkew2, who dives into the mindset of a person like this. He writes, "In the originals, not the copycats, it's all about connections. Some of them are obvious to anyone who has a cursory knowledge of conspiracy theories. Often can be true or can be unprovable. Some are a bit deeper, and some really seem to be the result of psychosis. Alternatively, they could be the person's own conspiracy ideas, which in the past, even more than now, conspiracy theory has been equated to nut job. Not to create the longest run-on sentence, but this is just a small surface-level example of the stream of consciousness you have to be on. The thoughts come, are connected, and have to be written down. The mind swirls while connections are being made, causing the swirling to slow, until solidified into a subliminally concrete list of connections. Now help is needed and people need to know. They must be shown the connections within this realm and how they connect to others. I have to fulfill my purpose, my urgent desire. More can join and make connections. Someone may have their eyes opened." And I agree. When we look at these notes, we see a lot of this stream of consciousness, and all of it revolves around secret societies, the dangers present and the ones that come from over there. Agents of chaos conditioning us to be controlled. Every nation on earth, every culture, every religion, Hinduism and Islam, Europe and China, celebrities like Oprah, Elon, Obama, organizations like the CIA, the NSA, industry leaders like Domino's Pizza and Pepsi Cola, then more dangerous implications, Illuminati, mafia, or crime. The author makes his claim, plain as day, our number one enemies. Now, if you're confused, so am I. But I'm not asking you to understand the content. No one can. It's almost impossible. But we can understand the purpose. This man, whoever he is scared. Most conspiracy theorists are. They feel under fire, oftentimes from unseen forces. And it's clear to me, and most of the users on r/Schuylkill Notes, that this man wants to open our eyes to whatever danger is out there, which in turn makes this person all the more dangerous. They've already gone to extreme lengths to make sure we hear him, but what comes next? If he doesn't get the response he wants, what's the next move? Let's talk about another problem, one that's debated over and over again in this Reddit thread. How are the notes being placed? The outdoor ones are obvious. Someone goes around and strings them up, pins them to trees, whatever. But what about the food? How is it getting into the food? Well, people have different theories, one of which aligns with the Tylenol poisonings. You see, whoever committed the Tylenol poisonings had a system. They would buy a bottle of Tylenol, poison a capsule, then return the product. The store would restock the returned product, and their murderous plan was in motion. And some people believe that's what's happening with these Schuylkill Notes. This is 100% the case. I have experience working in the food industry and actually did some investigation into consumer complaints on these notes back in 2021 through 2022 timeframe. There are a couple of key factors. Complaints are coming from products made by multiple companies. Even when from the same company, they come from multiple factories and production lines. Although not impossible, it's highly improbable that someone would have that level of access across multiple companies and factories. Sneaking a note into packaging at the factory is logistically quite hard. Most packaging equipment is covered with protective shielding for employee or food safety reasons. It often has multiple employees working in the same area with visibility to what people are doing. For packaging, like cardboard cartons, they are folded and formed inside the machine merely seconds before filling. Most complaints I investigated had commonalities in the region or state where the complaint came from. In my case, roughly 80% from small communities in southeast Pennsylvania, north of Baltimore. These correspond to where notes were found in public places like hiking trails. Many complaints came from packaging that didn't need to be resealed to hide or insert the note. Coffee tin lids can be removed and replaced while keeping the induction seal that protects the coffee intact. Cardboard lids can be folded and glued in different ways that can, in some cases, leave a small gap where paper can be inserted. Now, all of this makes perfect sense, and it might be true, but I'll remind you of my chef friend. When we first talked, I asked him, what was the state of the box? Did it look tampered with? Was there some sign that a person had gotten into it outside of the manufacturing? And his answer was no. It was sealed, exactly like the rest. Taped, secured, untampered with. This wasn't a box of pasta or a pack of cookies. It was food sent directly from the manufacturing company in bulk. It wasn't on a shelf, and it wasn't accessible by the public. It was completely inaccessible. And this is consistent with all of the evidence presented on the Reddit thread. Most users comment with their pictures, something along the lines of, found inside a sealed box. This is also supported by the incredible distance between locations where people have found these Schuylkill Notes. Here's a map, visualizing some of the user-reported locations. For those of you listening, we've got a spread that ranges from as far as Illinois, as far south as the Carolinas, and as far north as Maine. I'll also remind you all, a user reported finding one in an Aldi in Hamburg, Germany. So the odds of this being at store level, in my opinion, is low. So if it isn't happening at store level, that means it's happening sometime between manufacturing, packaging, and shipping. Okay, how? Well, about a year ago, someone made a startling connection. User Please Listen in Here writes, found connections by researching the companies and brands that each note is found in. Hello. New here, and I'm sure this has already been mentioned perhaps. If not, I wanted to jump in. Junior Mints, mac and cheese, Dunkaroos and Skinny Pop were the first I researched, and all were owned by Nabisco, with Hershey's owning Skinny Pop. I also found that there's a Nestle beef between Nabisco especially, and not sure if it is relevant. All of these food brands are owned by Nabisco. Could this be happening possibly from a factory worker, slipping these into boxes while packaging? This to me seems like a step in the right direction. Users have posted finding the notes in these products, and all of them are owned by Nabisco. Now, is it possible that Nabisco just owns a lot of products and the notes are still going in randomly? Sure, but the connection is hard to deny. Is it possible that somehow, some way, a factory worker is introducing the notes during the manufacturing process at Nabisco? Well, it just so happens there's a very famous Nabisco factory in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. That would make sense then, why these products are predominantly found within 50 miles of Philly. At least it would if the factory hadn't shut down in 2015 and later demolished in 2016. So what about the delivery process? Maybe they're being slipped in that way, from a more distant factory? Well, some people believe it might be a truck driver, someone with relatively easy access to multiple packages in bulk, with plenty of time to tamper with the products. This would explain why there's such a large geographical spread, and it would also align with my friend's personal experience. While some people are certain that it is, in fact, a truck driver, others aren't so sure. User freeborn_247 makes a good point. Quote, I work in retail and have worked for multiple retail companies. The odds that it's a truck driver are slim due to the fact that 99% of deliveries have a welded bolt placed through the doors. The driver cannot open that bolt. It takes bolt cutters without the receiver or other associates present. They typically ask, can I break the seal? If the seal's already broken, when they arrive, the shipment can be refused and they more than likely will lose their jobs. So the likelihood that a driver is tampering is very low. So, we don't know how the notes are getting into the packaging, which is terrifying. It could be happening anywhere by any means, and we have no idea where to start. Plenty of theories, very little evidence. And none of these theories leave room for the notes that are found on the ground. The ones found in the parks, the woods, under benches, in thrift shop clothing. All of this implies there's at least one person placing notes physically, moving from location to location with dozens of notes, planting them like little Easter eggs for people to find. And that makes me think, maybe it is happening at store level. But then, how did my friend find one in a box straight from the manufacturer? Not just his experience, there was a guy who found his Schuylkill notes in a sealed bag of Lucky Charms. Every time I try to wrap my head around this, the how of it all, I end up with more questions than I do answers. So maybe we have to start somewhere else. Like the notes themselves? Maybe there's something about the actual physical notes that can give us a clue as to what's going on and who's behind it all. Well, one of the first big leads I found was printer steganography. For those of you who don't know, most modern printers are set to produce a secret microscopic code called the Machine Identification Code, or MIC. This code was implemented in the 1980s when companies like Xerox and Canon became worried that their printers were being used to print counterfeit bills. Law enforcement wasn't happy, and they needed a way to protect themselves from the ensuing trouble this might have caused. So they began implementing a new technology: tiny, imperceivable yellow dots planted imperceptibly throughout the page. Each printer has a unique combination, with no two printers having the same design. If a criminal used a printer to counterfeit money, the yellow dots would allow law enforcement to track down the exact printer, and in turn, the criminal. And for the mysterious Schuylkill notes, one user decided to investigate the paper itself, hoping it would provide useful information. Here are his findings. There is no MIC on the note I received. I took macro photos of a Schuylkill note and a piece of paper printed with a color printer. to act as my control. I used high CRI lighting and a UV light to try and isolate any yellow tracking dots. I processed these in Lightroom to boost saturation and luminosity of yellow hues to make tracking dots easier to see. My method works, as you can easily see the tracking dots on the control piece of paper. There are no discernible tracking dots on this Schuylkill note, which leads to 3 possible conclusions. Number 1, the notes are printed using a black and white printer. Number 2, the notes are printed using a color printer that did not implement MIC. And number 3, the notes are photocopied, which may erase MIC. This still requires the copier to match one of the 2 above options. Additionally, this is only based on a single note. I would like others to send me notes, ideally older ones, to see if my findings are consistent. I also believe I found a way to identify the authenticity of these notes, and I'd like to confirm that. If you have a note, please consider sending it my way. You're actually joking, right? There is no discernible information from the papers themselves. None. And not even that. We don't even know how there's no MIC dots. There are 3 theories about just the dots themselves. Guys, this entire case is crazy. It's like a hydra. You answer one question and 3 more questions take its place. And I'm sure by this point, like me, you're starting to feel a little hopeless. But right in that paragraph, he makes an interesting observation. One that brings us to yet another question. OP said, I also believe I found a way to identify the authenticity of these notes. What does that mean? Authenticity. Well, it means that some people think not all of these Schuylkill notes are genuine notes. In other words, there might be copycats. Which brings us to our next question. Who? Well, the copycat theory crops up a lot of posts on this subreddit. Throughout this video, I've sort of been referring to this perpetrator as a single person, but if you really look at all the information we do have, it starts to feel like the only way this could happen on such a large scale across multiple years is if multiple people are producing these Schuylkill notes. But once again, the jury is out. One of the main arguments against the copycat theory is why? Why would anyone have a reason to even copy the notes and claim them as actual genuine notes? Sure, if this was a big profile case, there would probably be copycats. But the Schuylkill notes haven't really gained any mainstream media attention outside of Reddit. And even then, the posts of Schuylkill notes get like 30 upvotes at best. That's it. This isn't a groundbreaking story. Even on YouTube, only one video about these Schuylkill notes has more than 100,000 views. All of the others have like 7,000 views. Nobody is talking about this. Nobody is discussing it. And nobody seems to care. So what reason would there even be for a copycat? You won't go viral. You won't get famous. Maybe you might piss some people off, which is possible, but at the same time, there are hundreds of notes. Hell, maybe even thousands at this point, which creates a couple of equally unlikely options. A, the copycats do exist and are creating their own notes for whatever reason, their own twisted pleasure, I guess. Or B, the copycats do not exist and there's one crazy guy printing thousands of notes. Neither of these are really great options, but there's one other possibility. And that is, what if there's multiple people? Not copycats, but a group of people creating these Schuylkill notes en masse. Well, as I was researching, I came across your typical Schuylkill notes post. A guy takes a walk on a wildlife trail and finds 3 notes. But this guy, I think, has one of the craziest pieces of evidence on the entire subreddit. 70 upvotes, 1 comment, and a groundbreaking clue. He writes, "Hey everyone, I found a Schuylkill note in my gummies, and now I found 3 with my family on a trail. We saw 2 people, one guy wearing a dark green tee, black hair, 6'2", bigger guy, glasses, late 30s to 40s. And an older guy, 60s, hunter-esque attire with the pointy goatee and stash. around 5'10". I said, hey to the both of them. So if one of those people was one of you, I hope you're doing great. Anyway, here's more notes. One was tacked under a leaf, one was tied, and one was just sitting on a log, which had to have just been placed because of how windy it was. We saw the older dude maybe 60 feet away from it. Two are the same. One is different. There's the critical piece of evidence. Right there. In this seemingly ordinary post, a family is walking in the woods. They spot two men near a cache of 3 Schuylkill notes. The men don't respond when greeted, and one of the notes was just resting on a log. If the OP is telling the truth, and the day really was windy, then he'd be correct. The note would not have been able to stay on top of the log, which means the two men must have placed the notes. If this is true, that would mean there are multiple people creating these Schuylkill notes. Personally, I think that explains a lot of the discrepancies we've covered so far. How can this be happening all across the eastern US? Where are the notes being produced? How is it getting into the food boxes? Why are they doing it? When does a single person have the time to produce hundreds of notes? Well, all of these questions can be explained if there are multiple people. Some people are slipping them into boxes at store level, others are slipping them into manufacturing or during shipping, some are printing the notes themselves, others are walking through the woods, dropping 10 notes, 20 notes across miles and miles. One takes a trip, say to the Niagara Falls or to Germany, they leave Schuylkill notes. One goes down south to visit family, they leave a Schuylkill note. I think this is much more devastating than the copycat theory, because if this is multiple people, we've evolved out of the it's just a crazy person in the woods idea. If this is true, there is a team of lunatics out there, conspiracy theorists with a harrowing, disturbing rhetoric, making a call to action for anyone that thinks like them, speaks like them, believes like them. This theory brings the whole story to one terrifying crescendo. Premeditated, intentional propagandizing. Join us against the enemy. Fight the powers that be, the evil among us. And they're advertising in our food. They have access to our dried goods, our cereals, and our cookies, our neighborhood stores, our factories, our friends and family, across multiple states and across hundreds of miles. And if this theory is correct, then we've all got something to worry about. The FBI and the Food and Drug Administration have, apparently, been investigating these Schuylkill notes for a couple of years now. Just recently, they've begun showing up on news channels across the greater Philadelphia area. But the really scary fact is, we have no information, no answers, nothing. No one has been caught in connection with the notes. We don't know what's going on. All we know is that whoever's doing this right now is in an extremely powerful and possibly catastrophic position, and no one seems to be talking about it. The subreddit, even with its dedicated amateur sleuthing, its rigorous mapping, and energetic community, gets almost no views. No one is paying attention to this. Before my friend told me, I'd never heard of this before. None of my friends or family have heard of this. And just like the Tylenol poisonings, whoever is perpetrating the mass distribution of Schuylkill notes has immediate access to all of our food. It isn't happening like it did in 1982. It's not just one product. It's dozens of products across dozens of stores by multiple companies. And like I just said moments ago, that is genuinely terrifying. That means that completely sealed food that should be 100% fine could be contaminated by these people. And you would never know, because nobody knows anything. Personally, I believe lots of things about this case. I believe it's multiple people. I believe it's happening at the factory level, but really, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what anyone thinks or believes. The fact of the matter is, this is not good. And the longer this is allowed to go on, I suspect it will continue to get more extreme. and more dangerous. At the beginning of this story, I told you the notes have been evolving. Over the years, they've gotten crazier, less reasonable, and more demented. Sure, right now it's just a bunch of crazy notes, but what happens when that isn't enough? What happens if they want to communicate a more devastating message? We could be looking at another case of the Tylenol poisonings, but this time it won't be 8 victims. It could be hundreds. And I also asked earlier, what is anyone doing to stop this from happening? Well, other than the dedication of Redditors we've seen throughout this video, it doesn't look like very much. There's no word from the FBI, the FDA, the police, nothing. No leads, no media attention, no call to action. I don't think it's a crazy thing to say. Nobody is taking this seriously. At least nobody is treating it like a serious situation. More people should be talking about this. More people should be concerned. This entire story should be viral right now, but it isn't, and that's incredibly frustrating and more than a little concerning. I feel like it's just me and 20 Redditors who actually recognize the gravity of this situation. That this is dangerous, and it could quickly spiral out of control and into a nationwide tragedy. But nobody seems to care. And that, to me, is the most horrifying thing of all. And it looks like to me, for at least the foreseeable future, this won't be solved anytime soon. So hopefully this video can help kickstart some movement and help people realize that crazies have access to our food supply. Please share the video to friends and family to help raise awareness. And please like the video and subscribe to the channel to boost the video in the algorithm. Thank you all so much for watching, and leave your theories down below. And this was Snook, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Hey, what's up guys, and welcome back to the channel. And today we're getting into some deranged confession threads where I get into some of your guys' confessions and some confessions from Reddit. So it's a wild mix. And yeah, like the title says, we're getting into some deranged confessions, and they are sad, they're wild, and they are just, yeah, shocking. So you'll want to stick around. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps more than you know. And if you'd like to see your confession in a future video, please send it to the email on screen now. Thank you so much. And yeah, this video will be long enough already. So without further ado, let's get into some deranged confession threads. I just shot my dog. My wife found a stray last week that loved our young daughter more than anything. This dog had followed her around from outside the daycare fence, playing with her through the fence for 3 days before my wife decided to see if she could catch him. After much coaxing, he got her into the car and she brought him home. He was a little black and white rat terrier looking mutt. And in true kiddo fashion, our daughter decided that a black and white dog's name is going to be Marshall because Paw Patrol. Well, Marshall and Kiddo are fast friends, chasing each other around, playing nonstop. It was beautiful. Marshall wasn't without fault though. He was so attached to her that several times he tried to defend our daughter from the other dogs we have, so he didn't quite trust them yet. We even considered getting rid of him after the first day when he jumped our 122-pound shepherd mix for trying to get pets from our daughter. That was truly scary, as she was right in the mix and I yanked her up into the air from between them as they briefly fought it out. Luckily, she was not hurt, but it really had us worried. We decided to stick it out and give Marshall a chance because of how strong he'd bonded with daughter and just how pure their love was. We brought him home a week ago, and he'd made great strides, not fighting with the other dogs besides the occasional growl, and he'd started herding our goats around, really living his best life, and we felt like we could keep working with him and get him to be a part of the family. Tonight, I let him out for a bathroom break, as I looked for an additional in-ground fence collar that the shepherd mix has to keep on him from going out under the gate, but still lets him roam around the whole property without wandering into the neighbor's land and getting into their cows. He was seriously injured doing that when young, and I know in-ground collars aren't well received, but it was better than him almost dying again, and it works great. I'd found the extra collar, got a new battery into it, and was headed outside to test it before putting it on Marshall to make sure he would stick to our property, and I saw him, lying in the tree line at the edge of the front yard by the gate, not moving. I went over to him and saw he had a swollen belly, a severely injured leg that was broken in several places, was not getting up, and I could tell he'd been hit by a car. I'm a first responder, and I knew that the way his leg was bent up and the swelling at his hips meant his pelvis was broken, and the swollen belly was from internal bleeding, and there was zero chance he would survive. I carried him inside, and as I did, I knew he was on borrowed time, as I could feel how his broken hips really were even, though I was carrying him as gently as I could. He didn't even whine. He was so far gone already. I brought him to his bed, laid him down as comfortably as I could, and told the family. We got our daughter and told her that Marshall had a really bad boo-boo that we couldn't fix. She understands what death is a bit more than most 3 years old because of farm life, but it's still very limited. And we told her he was not going to make it. She asked if he was going to die, and we told her that Marshall was going to die. We're religious, so we told her that I had to take him out into the woods so he could be with Jesus, and Jesus would take him away so he wouldn't hurt anymore. She asked a bunch of questions that we answered as best as we could. She hugged and kissed Marshall. She said goodbye to him, and then told me she'd be okay. Many tears were shed. So I bundled Marshall up in a towel and brought him to a quiet area in the woods. I laid him down, thanked him for loving my daughter so much and bringing her so much joy this past week. And I apologized to him. I told him I was sorry that he got hurt, that I was sorry that our attempts to make his life better ended the way it had, and I apologized for how much the walk out here must have hurt. His pupils were huge from the shock. His gums were gray and his whole face had gone cold, and his breaths were shallow. As I stepped back, thanked him again, apologized, told him I loved him, and shot him. The pain was gone, and I know I did the right thing for him, especially since the closest emergency vet is an hour or so away, so he would die painfully long before he could be properly euthanized. But it still doesn't feel good. Daughter told us that she would dream about Marshall tonight so he could feel better in her dreams after story time before bed, and that broke us both again. So she consoled us and told us it would be okay because Jesus would always take good care of Marshall now, and that he doesn't live at our house anymore. So we just cuddled up, quietly crying with her, until she went to sleep. This is a huge wall of text, but I gotta get it out there because it sucks and I need it off my chest. It was less than 1 week, Tuesday to Sunday, but dang, he was a part of the family already and was easily our daughter's best friend for that week. We gave Marshall a house, we cleaned his dirty fur, gave him a bed, food, water, and a best friend for 1 week of his lonely life living on the streets. And I keep telling myself that even though it ended abruptly, that 1 week was worth it for him. And it should be worth it for me too. Viewer confession. Hello Snook, before I start, I'd like to thank you. Your videos carry me through work a lot, but carrying on, here is my confession. Sorry if it's long or my grammar is bad. I abused my classmate's dog. When I was a preteen, I used to pick on a kid. For this story, I won't be using his real name, but I'll use something he goes by so that, on the off chance he somehow sees this, he can hear it and hopefully get closure for my actions. So, Didact, if you're seeing this, I truly am sorry. Didact was very introverted, as he didn't speak much because he was self-conscious about his lisp. At the time, I didn't know much about him. I just thought it was funny because he sounded different. I tormented him for so long as the new kid at school solely so I could fit in with the wrong people. Until one day, he finally spoke to me. This was the first time I had ever heard him speak to me directly. He spoke calmly and only said one thing. "Why are you like this?" Then he began to turn his back to me. At the time, it caused an explosion within me. I won't use it as an excuse, but my late mother would always say that to me whenever I acted out, and it made me angry. I tried to sucker punch him while he wasn't facing me. I don't know how he pulled it off, but he ducked without even looking and did some kind of karate-looking kick that I didn't even have time to register before it knocked me out. I was suspended. It didn't take long for me to become the main joke for that semester because not only did I bully a kid, but the kid I bullied knocked me out in less than 10 seconds. I couldn't take it, so I started trying to find some way to hurt him. I knew I clearly couldn't beat him. I found out he fought a lot, mainly because of people like me, so he was naturally quite good at it. So I went for the thing he cherished the most, his dog, Daisy. She was everywhere you saw him outside of school. She was on the wallpaper of every device he owned, and if he was outside, that dog was always with him. I knew how much he loved her. Skipping some details, I found her. She was near my backyard at the time. I have no idea why, but I assume she ran off. I took my grandfather's cane and beat her. I hurt her so badly that I thought I had killed her. I went back inside without even bothering to clean up what I had done, and for some sick reason, I felt fulfilled and happy. I still can't escape the hate I feel for myself for taking joy in hurting a living creature. But she survived. She's still alive to this day. Even so, Didact was devastated. It hurt him so much that he did something unthinkable to someone else. And it's all my fault. My grandfather at the time was known to dislike that dog because she would constantly sneak into his yard. So, if you can guess where this is going, everybody in that neighborhood thought my grandfather did it. It didn't help that the first sight Didact was greeted with when he knocked on the door was my grandfather's discarded, bloody cane lying on the porch. He lost it. He beat my grandfather so badly, it nearly paralyzed him. My grandpa was a good person. He was a veteran, and despite him not liking Daisy, I knew he loved animals almost as much as Didact himself. He would never have hurt a dog. But because of me, his name is still ruined, even after death, because people think he was some cruel old man who beat a little kid's pet nearly to death and faced the consequences. And it's all my fault. I know the destruction I caused won't go away with this confession, but if you're seeing this, Didact, you surely know who I am. You're smart enough to figure it out. I'm sorry from the bottom of my heart. I regret my actions, and I hope you grow into an even better person than you already are. I hope your career in animal rescue succeeds, and I wish Daisy a long and healthy life. I doubt this will be on time, but happy late birthday to your canine best friend. And thank you, Snook. In advance, if you go over this story, I'm not the person I once was, and I hope you and everybody else can forgive me for my cruel actions. I'm now a doctor, and every day I hope my good deeds will outweigh the bad. The reason I didn't confess this earlier is because at the time I was afraid of him, but now that we're both adults, I respect him and everybody else who can see the true value of life. There is no innate hierarchy of value. We are all living beings who just want to live our lives. Harming one, no matter what creature it is an unforgivable act. I just hope others can learn from the lesson I have. And I just have one quick thing to say to you and some feedback to this horrifying confession. Please, that apology you just wrote to me, or that apology you just wrote out, please send that to Didact. You have it written out. You feel sorry. Why are you banking on him seeing this video? Why are you waiting for him to see my video or see this video and instead of just reaching out to him personally? Please, and even if you guys have each other blocked on social media or whatever, reach out to his girlfriend or wife or mom or dad or brother or sister or friend or whatever, please reach out to him personally and forgive him. I mean, what you did to him was horrible. There's no downplaying that. You beat his dog nearly to death because he loved his dog, and you bullied him for things he couldn't control. So please, the one thing I have to say is please reach out to Didact. I mean, I'm sure he's still thinking about this years later. You know, such a horrible situation and a horrible thing you did, no doubt about it. But please just reach out to him and personally apologize. And he doesn't have to forgive you. He doesn't have to forgive you at all. But I think he deserves an apology for what you did for him. And so please, like I said, don't bank on him seeing this video. I mean, the chances of that are very, very low, I have to bet. And so please just reach out to him personally and say, I'm sorry. And tell him exactly what you told me, all of the things you said. And, you know, hopefully he can forgive you. And if he doesn't, oh well. But at least you apologize to him. I don't care that my drug addict sister is homeless and may lose a limb. If that makes me a bad person, so be it. My sister is a drug addict. Me, 29 female, her 30 female. She's never had a legal prescription for opioids. She's never had an injury that would mean she needed them. I haven't spoke to her in almost a decade. My parents are still in contact with her. I'm tired of them enabling my sister and trying to get me to re-establish contact. My parents have informed me that my sister is homeless again and she is close to losing a limb. Maybe I'm a bad person, but I don't care. They told me the drug supply in the US is contaminated and it has now made its way to our province and tainted the supply. There is some kind of tranquilizer in them that makes limbs rot and die. They want to move my sister into their house and say they need my help to pay for rehab again. When she first started using drugs 11 years ago, I gave up my measly savings to help my parents pay for her stay in the rehab. I participated in family therapy. As soon as she got out, she went right back to using drugs again. She told me she would trade my life for drugs. Oh man. After that, I cut off contact. Since then, she's been in rehab again. She's been to prison. She lies and steals. This isn't the first time she's been homeless. I don't even know the number of times she's OD'd. The most insane part of this is that she's been told by multiple doctors she will lose her limb. But she keeps on doing exactly that and doing it. Even the threat of losing a limb isn't enough to stop her from using. I told my parents I don't care, and they are angry. But I also told them to never mention her to me ever again. If it makes me a bad person, so be it. She's dead to me, and I'm sick of my parents enabling her. She is selfish, and I want nothing to do with this. And we didn't get an update for 3 months from the OP. A lot of people in the comments were trying to reassure that it's a very hard situation, and they understand whatever choice she does make, whether to help or not her sister. That's what most of the comments are saying. And 3 months later, she makes an update. Just a warning that some people may find this next bit to be disturbing. The limb is gone. My sister had to have it amputated not long after my last post. It's been almost 2 months since she lost the limb, and she is still using drugs. Losing a limb wasn't enough of a wake-up call. She did not go to follow-up appointments and didn't go to rehab. Instead, she went to the streets and is continuing to use drugs. My parents, 55 female and 55 male, have been letting my 29 female sister, 30F, stay with them because she ended up homeless again. But she would either leave to go back to the streets or bring drugs into the house. I took a step back from my parents and was low contact because they wouldn't stop asking me to help her and also to pay for her rehab again. Now I have completely stopped talking to them because they say it's my fault what happened to her. Wow. Multiple doctors told my sister she would lose that limb, yet she continued to do it. Somehow it's my fault though. I was so angry when my parents said that. I had already been no contact with my sister for a long time over her drug use. Now, it will be the same for my parents. As far as I'm concerned, they all burned that bridge and there's no going back. I'm done with the three of them. To reiterate what I said in my last post, I don't care if not helping my sister makes me a bad person. So anyone telling me to have compassion for her can save it. Also, this wasn't a case of her having an injury and a legal prescription that was out of control. By my sister's own admission, she started taking opioids at parties and because it was fun. Now, the drug supply in our province is tainted, and the doctors warned her several times what would happen if she kept doing it. Even after everything that happened, she is still using. She is the only one responsible for what happened to her. And this is just such a sad situation. Not only did the OP lose their sister, but they also lost their parents. And I find it utterly disgusting that the parents are blaming the OP for what happened to her. That is so wrong and disgusting in my opinion. I mean, obviously the parents are in a complete shitstorm of things going on. I mean, I can't imagine. But for you to blame your daughter and say it's her fault for your sister's drug addiction, and also it's your fault for her losing a limb? How? I mean, the OP outlined in the last post, she spent all her savings for the first round of rehab, and it didn't work. She went through all her savings. I mean, that showed her love. Why would she do it again to herself? She knows that her sister has a problem in it. She's too far gone. So I'm interested to see what you guys think on this. Do you think the OP should have compassion or not? I mean, I understand what the OP is saying completely, and I totally understand why the OP cut off complete contact with both of them. They both don't love the sister. I mean, also, let's not forget, the OP sister said she would trade her life for drugs. That is even crazier. And so why would the OP have compassion for her sister? Because obviously her sister doesn't have compassion for her in the slightest. Obviously she's in the deep hell of addiction, but that doesn't change what she said. And so for the OP to cut off contact, I have to say I understand. And let's get into some of the top comments. Someone says, as a former addict, I understand this. You have to protect yourself, and the addict needs to hit a bottom in order to change. Trying to help them can just enable their addiction and prevent them from ever recovering. The sad thing is that everyone's bottom or point that makes them realize they need to change is different. Some never hit this point and will either die or wind up in prison, or both. That may be the case for your sister. I'm sure on some level you love and care for your sister. The problem is that addiction changes a person into someone else. Your sister has burned you repeatedly and isn't the same person you knew before addiction. Don't feel bad for not loving that person, but understand that if your sister can get clean, her old self will hopefully come back. I feel for you and all the families that are destroyed by this terrible disease. Someone else says, I mentioned this on OP's other post, but I'm commenting it over here so people can realize just how messed up and tragic the sister situation is. The tainted drugs OP mentions in her post is due to something called, aka Trank, is an animal tranquilizer which is being added to opioids and other drugs. If you are tempted to do an online search, beware. The pictures are gruesome. This is what happened to OP's sister's limb. And then a commenter replies to when the OP said, quote, I took a step back from my parents and was low contact because they wouldn't stop asking me to help her and also to pay for a rehab again. Now I've completely stopped talking to them because they say it's my fault what happened to her. And the commenter replies saying, it sounds like your parents are inappropriate to this, make this a burden to be shifted on you, and they should have paid for her rehab and not you. Myself, I tend to not have as much compassion for addicts who took drugs due to curiosity, for entertainment or fun, when so many efforts have been put forth into public campaigning against doing drugs, never mind real-life examples of addicts themselves. So, yes, she's your sister, is responsible for what's happened to her. It sounds like your parents may be enabling her. Someone else says, your parents are just wanting someone to be mad at. It has to be everyone and everything else's fault that she's this bad. An addict has to want to stop, and it's obvious she doesn't want to. You paying for rehabs and saving her over and over again will do nothing. If anything, it just buys her more time. We tried everything for my mom, but her children, her family, her husband, and her friends weren't enough of a reason to stop. Hitting rock bottom and losing everything and everyone else was not a wake-up call. Getting hepatic, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that word, and almost dying was not enough. So I just had to step away. I won't destroy my life for someone who doesn't care. And I think that final line in that commenter's comment sums it up pretty well. The OP's sister doesn't care. Doesn't care about her sister, doesn't care about her family, doesn't care about her own personal well-being, her body, etc. So why would the OP destroy their life and everything, uproot their entire lives and just spend all their money, spend all their time, spend all their time caring for someone who doesn't love them back? So I think that final line of that final comment summed it up pretty well, but I just really wish the OP well, and I hope they're doing better now. And I just hope that the OP's sister can recover from this addiction and turn their life around. But I guess we'll have to wait and see if we get another update. But yeah, I just really hope this situation turns around. I found my wife's body in the closet yesterday. Pretty self-explanatory. I left for work at 9 the night before, got off early since it was my weekend, and went upstairs to find she'd committed S-word from our closet door and a rope. She suffered from mental health issues most of her life, and I guess I knew this might happen one day, but I didn't think it would be yesterday. The police came and went. We're sorry for your loss. Some friends came and picked me up. I'll be staying in the guest room for a bit, I guess. My family came to pick up my son. He'll be 3 in April. My sister-in-law is going to look after him, so at least he'll have his cousins to play with him. I had to comfort her mother, who blames herself. I had to call my job to tell him that I needed some time. I had to call estranged friends, having them disseminate to others I couldn't reach, got drunk, took an Ambien, slept, went to the car wash with a friend, stayed there until 3 a.m., watched Space Jam when I got back, talked to my dead wife in the rain. It's been a roller coaster of tears and laughter and silence, and I have so many questions that can wait. The weirdest thing is, though, I'm feeling intensely aroused, and I'm having trouble falling asleep. Normally, I jerk it to help myself drift off, and believe me, I want to, but I don't think I can. Looking at adult videos seems disrespectful, and I can't close my eyes without seeing her, so here I am, wide awake, spilling my guts into the void. Yesterday was the worst day of my life, and I'm worried about jerking it. God help me. Edit. I just wanted to say how grateful I am for everyone who reached out this morning. I want to say so much more, but everything I type looks wrong. My son and I will be okay. My wife is in no more pain. I have the most wonderful group of people sitting in this room with me right now. I'm not angry. Not with my wife, anyhow. I'm angry with her disease, but I couldn't have asked the girl I married to go on hurting anymore. If you or someone you know is suffering from mental health problems, let someone know. Let someone try. Fight like hell. Kiss your wife when you leave for work. Something I can't explain happened to me, and it's destroying my life. I'm not crazy. I don't, have never, and will never use drugs, not even pot. I haven't drank since college, and even then it was just with my girl because she was a partier. I am by all means sane, or at least I was before something bizarre and terrifying happened to me early morning during the summer of 2022. I have told nobody about this, not a damn soul. If I even mention it to anybody, they would immediately question my mental state. This throwaway account is the only place this story will be. I'm only typing this out on my cell phone because I need some relief for this turmoil in my head. Every time someone mentions secrets, anything paranormal, or even you'll never believe what I saw, my blood runs cold. I get goosebumps and my eyes tear up. I'm a prison in my own mind, and I hope beyond hope posting my story here somehow calms the situation I have going on. If it helps someone else, so be it, but I'll be honest, I'm writing this for me. I'm uncomfortable with talking about this, not because I'm a skeptic, but because I know beyond any shred of a doubt that something paranormal happened to me. The backstory. My car registration was not paid up because my state said they will not be penalizing drivers through the pandemic. Registration is very expensive in this state, and my hours had naturally been cut during the pandemic, so I opted to not pay it. Well, my apartment management did not agree and decided to put a notice on my windshield that having expired tags is a violation of the lease agreement, and cars with expired tags will be towed at the owner's expense, and residents will face possible eviction for repeated violations. Completely insane eviction reasons aside, I couldn't afford my car being towed if I couldn't afford paying the Reggie in the first place. So I opted to park my car at my parents' house, just 2 blocks away from my place. This made it an easy morning walk to get to my car and drive to work, which was also nearby. I made this walk for months. The walk was nice and my mom would drive me home. Don't judge me. My mom is awesome and she was happy to spare me from the 100+ degree summer heat. The route I had to walk took me behind their house. Their backyard was one of those city-maintained cinder block walls with a major road right on the other side. One morning, I was making the walk, and I randomly got the idea to hop the wall to save myself 5 minutes of walking. I wasn't in a hurry. I gave myself plenty of time. This is an odd choice since the wall isn't super sturdy, and it is very tall and rough. Without second guessing the choice, I grabbed the top of the wall, put my foot on it, and hurtled right up and over in one motion. I even surprised myself with how athletic of a move it was. I started walking to the house and something stopped me dead in my tracks. A fucking gnome. Yes, a fucking gnome. You're probably rolling your eyes and smirking right now, but I'm dead serious. I don't know how else to describe it. It was about 1 foot tall and walking around like it was patrolling the area. It was not human-like at all. It acted almost like a bug or a robot. It had a little spear-like tool with it, and its actions seemed deliberate and dutiful. What's really fucked is that I could feel its thoughts. Not telepathy, but I could just feel that it was aware I could see it. While I absolutely froze with fear, it opened its mouth and silently screamed to some unseen comrades. It wasn't scared of me, but it was absolutely going apeshit about the fact I could see it. I stood there, totally frozen and unable to move while its lower jaw just silently rattled back and forth, still howling silently. Its fear turned into frustration, and suddenly I was back on the other side of the wall, walking about a minute before I was behind my parents' house and decided to make the jump. I was fully aware of what happened, and I still could feel my heart in my ears. I just kept walking. I passed their backyard, completely terrified of what was just on the other side of the wall. I just kept walking. Tears were streaming down my face as I made the only turn to the small connecting street, and another right into the street which I grew up on. I just kept walking. I thought about waking my parents up and telling them what I saw. I contemplated going to the backyard and grabbing a shovel and looking for that little alien gnome fucker. But instead, I dutifully and automatically pulled my keys from my pocket and calmly opened the car door, started the engine, and drove off toward work like I always did. I got to work at 5:45, 15 minutes before my shift started. I wanted to stay in my car and call my wife to cry to her and beg her to tell me it was a dream or a hallucination or something. I was beside myself, but instead I just got out of the car and walked inside to make a cup of coffee like I always do. It wasn't like I was in a trance. It was like someone else was calling the shots and I was spectating. As soon as I got to my work area and greeted my coworker, the spectating stopped and I was in full control again. But my heart wasn't racing and I wasn't horrified. I was just normal me. I can't explain it well, and I know that doesn't make sense. But that's what happened. My mind and body weren't one for about 20 minutes. Then suddenly, they were, and it was just okay. Now you know why this still has me fucked up to this day. What the actual fuck were those things? Why did I choose to scale the wall that morning? Sudden, impulsive choices are so unlike me, it's crazy to even think that I would do that. But I did do that. Want to know how I know? My fingertips were cut up from the top of the wall. They were dirty and raw from pulling my weight up the wall. I'm in tears writing this. This hits home. This really happened to me, and I can never tell anyone this. I finally gathered the courage to tell you random internet strangers, and it was so much harder than I thought it would be. Hopefully getting this off my chest somehow helps me get past this because I've been genuinely traumatized by this experience. Am I really in control of me? Are there some little weird assholes behind the scenes controlling our lives? Guarding us? From what? I'm so lost and I have literally zero answers. I'm not religious, and I've prayed for answers. I have nothing but trauma and anger. Thanks for reading. Go ahead and tell me I'm crazy, or I had a stroke, or something. Let's hear it. And now let's get into some comments. Someone says, you might be having a psychotic break, but after the way the last 5 years have been, I'm rooting for gnomes are real, and they can scoot us around in time. The world needs a little magic. Someone else says, I can't give you answers on what you saw, but it is possible that you went into flight or fight mode and your brain disassociated to try and protect itself. Your whole description of not feeling in control of your body and just going through the motions to continue your routine sounds very similar to disassociation. With how terrified you're describing yourself to have been, it is a possibility. Someone replies to that saying, I agree with this. I'm not going to say if the gnome was real or not, but even if it were, it wasn't controlling you, OP. Your brain was just in panic mode. So you can rest easier on that part, I think. Someone else comments saying, this does not sound like a schizophrenic episode, and even though I don't know you, if this is the first time you've experienced something like this, I doubt very much you have schizophrenia. I've worked in mental health for 6 years now, and these are the most common presentations of schizophrenia. Age of onset is between 17 to 25 years old. Typically, you won't experience symptoms before or after those ages. However, outliers do exist. Delusions can be violent or paranoid. Some delusions are harmless. It depends on the person's culture and their particular symptoms. My point is, a one-time experience like this does not indicate schizophrenia or any kind of psychotic breakdown. I think the most probable explanation would be a heat-induced hallucination. In your text, you wrote that it was hot during your walks and sometimes in the hundreds degree wise. That's enough to make anyone hallucinate. And then, surprisingly, a lot of the comments are of people saying that they also have seen gnomes and they believe the OP, which is just wild to me. I have never seen anyone on the internet before claim they've seen gnomes. I mean, I've spent a lot of time on the internet. I do. And this is the first time I've seen such a large group of people claiming they have seen gnomes. So maybe gnomes or seeing gnomes is a common symptom of some kind of psychotic break. I mean, everyone watching right now, have you ever seen gnomes before? Like, am I the only one that's never heard of this? But yeah, everyone in the comment section is like, yeah, I saw it back in my day. What? And I mean, it just seems to me like the OP had a psychotic break of some sort, or heat-induced hallucinations, or something like that, but the OP makes an edit to his original post, responding to a lot of these comments. He says, "Thank you to everyone who commented. Typing this out did not immediately grant me any type of relief or solace, and I regretted it almost immediately. But after reading the comments as they came flooding in, I realized that it's okay that I had this huge life-changing event. My turmoil and anger has come from the fact that something happened to me, and no matter the cause, I have to deal with it alone. I still am not going to tell anyone whom I know what I experienced. But having so many anonymous strangers stop by and tell me on Reddit to stay positive absolutely has helped me way more than I could imagine. It's okay to have unexplainable phenomena happen and just move forward. The impact this event has had on me is absolutely absurd. I didn't get much into it on my original post, but every time the subject of mystery, magic, secrets, sanity, or anything even indirectly related to what happened came up, I would get angry, sweaty, become distant and short with my loved ones, and just totally shift in my personality. Several commenters have identified the possibility of me suffering from PTSD from this. I never would have accepted that I need medical help if I didn't post this message for Reddit. I'm glad I put myself out there, because this genuinely is destroying my life. Now I see a peaceful path forward. My wife suffers from PTSD, what some might call actual PTSD, because it stems from several very violent episodes directed at her when she was young. Thanks to the positive reactions to the comments here, I talked to her about anxiety, PTSD, and what she does to help herself. I told her I'm just under lots of stress and would love if we could revisit some of the meditation techniques I remember her doctor having her do early on in our relationship. She happily obliged without prying into my situation, and even mentioned she noticed I've been off for a little while now. Side note, someone please direct me on where I can nominate her for a Wife of the Year award. She's just fantastic. Anyway, I just want to say a big thank you to everyone here who commented. There are many mixed opinions below about what actually happened. Some people think I'm making it up. Some people think I'm batshit crazy or had a brief episode of schizophrenia. Some people believe me and even opened up about similar events in their own lives. One thing was common with nearly every comment: everyone wished me well. You guys are so overwhelmingly positive that pretty much every single comment showed me you are invested in my well-being. Sure, there were a few trolls, but genuinely you guys all want me to be happy and healthy going forward. I owe it to all of you wonderful people to prioritize my health and my family's well-being so I can move past this insane one-off event in my life. For the record, I believe it really happened, and I believe there are some mysterious forces that we can't comprehend at play around us. For some reason, it manifested itself as a gnome and turned my life upside down. I don't know why it happened to me, but I know that it did happen. And I just have to say that I hope the OP gets the help he needs, because I'm not going to sit here and be an armchair psychiatrist and be like, well, I think this and that, and I think he has this. No, I'm not going to do that. But I mean, you can just tell. You can just tell from this post that he needs help. He saw a gnome and he said it ruined his life, and I just think he needs to go talk to somebody who can maybe help him calm down from this and recognize that it wasn't real, or just to move on from this, because I mean, he said multiple times in here that it ruined his life. And so this obviously was a pivotal point in his life for, I guess, just the gnome. It was very weird, but I still think he needs to get help. It's obviously not normal to see gnomes, no matter which way you put it. And so I just hope the OP gets the help he needs, because he does seem like he's a little bit off his rocker here and there. I'm not going to sit here and try to diagnose him with anything or whatever, but it doesn't seem like he's all there. And I just hope he gets the help he needs, because, it's just very important to get help when you might think you need it. And I think the OP here might need it. I ghosted my family and fiance after what my sister did. I need a little advice on the matter as I don't know what to do anymore. I was 21 when my fiance asked me to marry him. He was the absolute light of my life. We had known each other since preschool. Our families are very close. He would come and have dinner with us on a daily basis and vice versa. He doesn't have any siblings, but I have 2 older sisters, which is very important as he was also very close with them. We grew up. When we started dating, I don't think our parents stopped celebrating for weeks. He helped me deal with a lot of my anxiety, and even when I gained a little weight and my mother berated me saying he was going to leave me, he told her off and said he loved me for who I was, not for what I looked like. Even though he claimed I was the most beautiful girl in the world to him, we were only engaged for 6 months before the incident. My middle oldest sister, let's call her Nikki, was a very cold person. She never showed any affection. She only ever opened up to my fiance as she said she saw him as a brother, and he also helped her through a lot of dark times such as battling drug addictions and breaking the law. She and I never saw eye to eye. I loved her dearly because she was my sister, but I didn't like her as a person. Out of the blue, she tells me she wants to take me clubbing as we had never been together before, and she felt bad that she was so distant to me. I agreed, and that night we went out. Clubbing wasn't really my style, but once I had a few drinks, I loosened up a little and began having fun. The night was going smoothly until Nikki spotted a guy across the room who she claimed she wanted to climb like a tree. She walked over to him, and within a few minutes she was back and she had a sour expression on her face. I asked her what was up, but she never said anything. I kept pressing because I didn't want our night to be ruined. She then told me the guy didn't want her number, but he wanted mine instead. I told her he was a loser and there were plenty of guys around who would kill to be with a girl like her. She didn't budge though. She told me she needed to use the restroom and then we would leave. I waited for over an hour. During this time, I was sipping on a lot of different cocktails. I then started feeling really dizzy and lightheaded. I figured I'd just cab it home as I was certain Nikki had left. On the way out though, I bumped into a friend of Nikki's whom she had briefly dated. He asked me if I needed a hand in my car, and I explained I was getting a cab. He said he was getting ready to leave and we could share one. I told him okay, and we walked out of the club together and into the first cab we saw. I tried to find my phone in my purse, but I felt myself getting dizzier and dizzier. I don't remember what happened next as I blacked out, and the next morning I woke up on a hard sofa, my head pounding. When I came to, I realized I was in Nikki's friend's house and my phone was sitting on the glass table in front of me, but it was flat. When he noticed I was awake, he offered some tablets and water and explained that I'd passed out in the cab and he didn't remember my parents' address, so he just picked me up and took me back here where he laid me on the sofa. I told him I needed to go home as my fiance would be worried. He called a cab and I left. When I arrived at my parents' house, my mother, father, my fiance, and his parents were all standing in the living room. I thought they were worried about me, but the instant I opened my mouth, my fiance asked how could I do this to him. I tried to explain that my phone went flat, but he then went on screaming about how could I cheat on him. I was baffled. Why would he think that? I tried to explain the night's events, but I kept getting cut off. Nikki then chimed in and said I was lying, and how could I be so heartless to a man who has been there for me through thick and thin. She went on to say I kept flirting with random guys all night, and then when she went to the bathroom, she saw me leave with her friend. I told her what had happened, and she showed me photos on her phone where, as we were leaving, his hand was on my back, ushering me outside. Yes, the photo did look horrible, and I was so drunk I didn't even realize his hand was on my back at all. My fiance was so angry. He kept shouting, and his mom and mine were both crying. I then asked Nikki to call her friend and he would confirm nothing happened, but when she called him, he told a completely different story. He said I begged him to take me back to his, and when he did, we slept together multiple times. I saw red and started crying and yelling at Nikki because I knew she had organized this whole thing to make me look bad. I begged my fiance to believe me, but he just shook his head and left. When everyone had cleared out, my mother slapped me across the face and told me to get out. I left and went to a friend's house where I stayed for a few nights. During those nights, I called my fiance crying and pleaded with him to believe me that nothing happened, but it all fell on deaf ears as he never returned any of my calls or texts. My mom texted me and told me she was kicking me out and that she couldn't believe I would do such a thing, and a lot of hurtful other slurs I don't think I could even repeat here. She didn't even give me time to get my things as she threw everything out. I was now homeless. None of my family would take me in, as they chose my fiance and mother's side. I was homeless and single in less than a day and a half. My entire world had been taken away because of Nikki's lies. Now, for weeks, I tried everything to get my fiance back in my family. The limit for me, though, was when Christmas time had come and I went over to my mother's house to try and reconcile. I was sleeping from couch to couch during this time. When I got to my parents' house, I knocked on the door, but no one answered. My friend then called me and told me she just saw on Facebook that my family were in another state celebrating Christmas and they had posted pictures online. Everyone was there. My sisters, parents, grandparents, and even my fiance and his family. When I myself saw the photos, I couldn't stop crying as they all looked so happy. I cried for days and days before deciding to block them all. I even returned my engagement ring. My friend knew someone a couple hours away who was looking for some help in his restaurant, and he even had living arrangements above where he worked, so I could even rent cheap and work at the same time. I wanted to start over with my life, as it hurt me that no one took my side and they all left me to fend for myself. I was able to move pretty quickly and was doing well. The apartment was tiny and I had to work 10 plus hours almost every day, but I was able to save a lot of money. I'm not living in the apartment anymore. I was able to rent a much nicer condo, but I'm still working at the restaurant as assistant manager. Now, it has been roughly 2 years since I left and have not spoken to any of my family. I have no idea what is going on with them until I got a knock on my door. It was my ex-fiance. I was shocked to say the least. All these feelings came rushing back and all I wanted to do was jump into his arms. But then I remembered the pain I'd felt and tried to slam the door in his face, but he stopped it and asked that I let him explain. He said that Nikki had gotten married and she had confessed that she lied about the situation because she had found someone she loved so much and realized what a horrible thing she had done. I asked him how he found me, and he said my friend told him. My entire family had been trying to get in touch with me and wanted to see me. I told him I needed time to see if I even wanted to have them in my life. He left and I've been a mess since. I don't know what to do. I know I will never ever forgive Nikki. She could rot for all I cared, but it's hard because my other family and fiance didn't know she was lying. But I also felt like they abandoned me too quickly without letting me explain my side. I don't know if I should forgive them. Any advice would be much helpful. Thank you for taking the time to read. And now let's get into some of the top comments. Someone says, frankly, I do not think I can forgive your ex-fiance or your family for abandoning you so quickly based on an incident that didn't even occur. It's all well and good for them to be sorry, but they didn't even have to completely reinvent themselves on their own the way you did. I wouldn't be quick to forgive or to forget. And then someone else says, you deserve an amazing life and you need to think carefully about the family and fiance who dropped you so quickly. Plus, your sister is a psychopath, and that's me being polite. She put you in such a position of danger for her own gain and destroyed your life. I can't believe also, given her past, that your parents would side with her on this. Someone else says, I'm petty AF and I would request a meeting with the family and sister's husband, and in front of him, I would tell him how she drugged you and gave to you a stranger to do whatever while you were drugged. How even after making you homeless, jobless, supportless, She still let that go on for years and enjoyed Christmas while not knowing if you were in a ditch somewhere. Blow up her life. Also, you don't owe them anything. They are all horrible people. And then a few days later, the OP makes an update to this entire situation. And the update reads as follows. Wow, guys, I don't even know where to begin. I'm honestly so grateful for all the support, advice, beautiful messages, and awards you guys have gifted. I wish I could personally thank each and every one of you. And I did my best to reply to every message. You guys are honestly so amazing, and I cried reading all the comments. My heart has never been so touched with the amount of love and support I got on this post, and I am so sorry if I took too long to post an update. I was honestly in so much shock, I didn't know how to cope with it. So, I never got back with my ex. I didn't know what to do, but eventually he must have given my phone number to his parents as they texted asking to meet up. I never replied. I was planning on organizing a Zoom meeting, but didn't need to as they also showed up at my door. Well, my father did. When I answered the door and saw him standing there, I ended up throwing up, which he insisted on cleaning. When he was done, we sat down and I just bursted into tears. My emotions were all over the place, and my father has worn the same cologne for a really long time, so when I smelt it, it just brought back all those memories. He tried to hug me, but I pushed him away and asked him what he was doing here. He went on to explain he and my mother are getting a divorce. He said he begged my mother to get in touch with me the minute I left, but she refused and said I was acting like a baby, and if I wanted to leave them after doing something so horrible, then I could do things on my own from then on. I asked him how long did it take for them to notice I was gone. He said they arrived back home after New Year's Eve and were planning on inviting me over so we could talk. That's when they got in touch with my friend, and she told them I left and she didn't know where I was. I asked him why didn't he listen to my side of the story, and why did they throw me away so easily? He just started crying. He said he never meant for the things to get so out of hand, and he wishes more than anything he could take it all back. I said when they found out Nikki was taking drugs and had dropped out of high school, they didn't throw her away. Instead, we all went on a holiday so she could focus on things besides drugs, and during that trip, she got hooked on alcohol, and each time they defended her over and over. He said he had no idea my mother was going to kick me out. He thought I was going to be for a few days, but then they decided last minute to spend Christmas out of state. My mother apparently promised him I would be allowed back home after they got back. I said she threw all away my stuff, but he said everything was still there, and she lied about that. I asked him what has happened to Nikki, and he said she is dead to him. He wants nothing to do with her, but my mother has been crying to him, asking to forgive Nikki as she is not well, and they had already lost one daughter. They cannot lose two. He blocked my mother and Nikki and has been on my ex's case about finding me. My ex caved in when my dad said he blocked my mother and Nikki and told him where I lived. I asked that he never show up again unless I gave him permission, and he agreed. He asked what would happen now, and I said I really don't know, and that he hurt me so badly. I then just went into detail about how much he hurt me and what it felt like seeing them so happy without me and how hard it has been. We were both crying by the end of it, but I was really glad I got it all out. It felt like a huge weight had been lifted off my shoulders. My dad then said he knew a few places around the area and would help get me a better apartment, and he would then help me get a better job, but I told him I wouldn't be leaving this job as my boss helped me out so much, and I wanted to repay him at all costs. I said I didn't want to do anything for me, but I said I do want to reconcile, but it has to be on my own terms, and it is going to take a very, very long time to trust him again, and I may never trust him again. He said he would do anything to make up for what he did. I asked him why Nikki did this and if she said anything about it. Well, she said she thought my ex deserved better than me, and she wanted to see him happy because he was making too many sacrifices in the relationship. She loved him like a brother and wanted to break the engagement off. So that night, she asked her friend to come and escort me out of the club so she could get photos and to take me home so her plan could work. She said nothing intimate happened. I went to sleep on the sofa and that was it. He was up playing video games all night until I woke up, which he has proof of apparently. My dad was planning on getting my stuff from my mother's house and bringing it to me, but I told him I didn't want those things anymore. I then went to ask about Nikki's husband, and he said my mother has been hush-hush with the entire situation, but he had his number and wrote it down for me. After my dad left, I decided to call Nikki's husband. I was sweating the entire time and felt so sick. What if I could hear her in the background? Well, anyhow, when he picked up, I just spit everything out, which I deeply regret because I should have eased into it for him. He sounded really confused and I explained the entire situation again. I even went into detail about her drug and alcohol problems. I was honestly expecting him to curse me out and defend Nikki. Instead, he let out a long sigh and, well, turns out he had a feeling she wasn't exactly innocent. Turns out her and his sister had been having problems, and she has been spouting nonstop lies about his sister and has caused a huge rift between them. His sister didn't even attend their wedding. I told him I was sorry, but he should make things right with his sister because Nikki was the problem, not her. We spoke a little more, and he hung up. I'm not entirely sure what he is going to do with that information. I hope he cuts his losses and leaves her because he sounded like a really nice person, and even he has lost his own sister because of Nikki. So I've decided to reconcile with my dad. My mother has always run the show their entire marriage, so the fact he is putting his foot down and divorcing her and going NC with Nikki shows he is serious about wanting to make amends. I don't think I will ever reconcile with my mother, as she thinks Nikki is a victim also in all of this, and at this point, I don't care to listen to her excuses. If she reaches out and we can talk, I will update the post again. For my ex, I haven't had the time to meet with him and talk. Though my dad mentioned he wanted to come with his dad, but he told him I would be too overwhelmed if both were there, and seeing them separated will make more clear decisions. He also mentioned my ex was arrested for assaulting Nikki's friend who lied about the entire situation. He was being charged, but the charges were dropped a few days later. I will update the post again, but when I have time to speak to my ex. Thank you guys for being so patient and so caring and just so amazing. And that is actually the last update we have ever received on the situation, and the OP has never made a third update. But let's get into some comments. Someone says, so this means your sister literally drugged you just to break your relationship up? The way you were passing out at the club isn't normal. What about your other sister? Someone else commented saying, it might be a lot of hoops to jump through, but I would seriously consider if any charges could be brought against your sister and her friend. They drugged you. They caused you extreme emotional turmoil, but I totally understand OP if you just want to wash your hands of them and not reopen old wounds. Someone else says, it's actually very karmic that you may have cost Nikki the relationship with the man she professes to love after she did the same to you. At least in your case, it was an act of charity. That poor guy definitely deserves better. My mom and sister starved themselves to death because of my mom's psychosis, and I have to deal with the aftermath. In 2020, my mom and sister died together in a locked apartment, along with my mom's friend. They didn't die in an accident or from illness. They starved themselves to death, together in the middle of summer. My mother had developed paranoid schizophrenia, but the diagnosis came post-mortem, on my request, in desperation to get some answers. She believed my father was trying to harm them and isolated herself and my sister from everyone. For 1.5 years, they lived in fear, completely cut off. She also believed they could survive without food and water by absorbing energy from the universe. Her mental illness spiraled into something so extreme, she convinced my sister to follow her. And she did. They were found about 5 days after death, but the police had no exact day of their deaths because, of course, they did not die at the same time, but hours or days from one another. 3 bodies, actually. My mother, my sister, and a delusional friend of hers who died with them. By the time they were discovered, they were in such a decomposed state that the police couldn't even identify which body was whose, not even by hair. That's how bad it was. We had to run DNA testing, dental records, 3 dead bodies in the heat, locked in, door barricaded. I wasn't there, but my mind was, and still is. I've never read the police reports. I've never visited the place where their ashes are. I still can't believe they're gone. And I feel this weird, almost sick obsession with the grotesque details. The smell, the state of their bodies, what the forensic team saw. Sometimes I Google crime scenes or morgue cases because my mind is stuck there. I imagine what it looked like. I can't stop imagining it. I've built a life, I've run my own business, I've survived, but I'm triggered by things like rotting fruit, the smell, the texture. It all sends my body into a panic. People ask me about my family, and I smile and lie. They joke about crazy people, and I laugh along. I've never told my clients. I've never written this down before, but it lives in me. I feel guilty for not saving them, for the trauma the police and forensic workers had to endure, for my sister who was 29 and could have walked away, but didn't. And sometimes I just feel nothing, just this heavy silence. If anyone else out there has lived through the same kind of trauma you can't put into words, if you've ever wanted to scream and vanish and be held all at once, I see you. Thank you for reading this. I don't know what I want from it. Maybe just do not hold it alone anymore. And then the OP makes an edit saying, posting this has been one of the most healing things in my grieving process. I had no idea it would be such a relief to be able to share my story and getting so much support. It hurts that some people might not believe that this story is true. Maybe it just shows how horrible the events were and how it must be hard for anyone to process the case. Trust me on this. The police were so empathetic and equally shocked that something like this can find place. There's no way anyone could have prevented this during the pandemic. Also, yes, I got help from AI to put into words what happened to me and my feelings. Don't blame me for that. Thank you so much for all your kind words and sharing your stories. I hope this post will be a safe space for us to share and vent in and be a memory of my loved ones who don't suffer anymore. I have read every single comment of yours. Edit 2. One of the most healing things for me after posting this was I have finally found peace finding out that there is an actual concept of folie de deux, which is a shared madness or shared delusion. Even if only one person is suffering from actual paranoia and psychosis, it can spread on to others under right and unfortunate conditions. It makes me stop questioning things and finally finding peace with how and what happened. Thank you very much to those who brought this up to clarify and help me answer the biggest questions of them all. Why? I'm 21 and I'm going to die a horrible death. This is long. It's literally my life story. I don't have a TLDR, maybe what the title says, I guess, plus more of these. Pain, disease, death. I'm from Albania originally. My family, mom, dad, and I came to Greece 20 years ago. Life wasn't that great, but it was simple. We were poor. Dad had/has schizophrenia. Home life was rough on me and mom. She divorced him when I was 12. He went back to Albania. I didn't really talk to him that much. We lived with my mom after the divorce. Changed homes, everything was fine. She was working, I was studying, not trying my best, but doing good. Fast forward to when I was 17, last year of high school. My mom was in a relationship with a man who lived in England. She was happy. I was indifferent, but she was happy. It all started with a pain in her left arm. She immediately thought it's from back when my dad had strained it in one of his attacks. She had never gone to the doctor about it because of work. She just bandaged it herself and suffered through. Her pain was getting worse. Movement was getting worse. She couldn't work anymore cleaning houses. My mom went to rheumatologists, orthopedists, finally to neurologists. She was hospitalized, was a bit of in and out. They couldn't find anything. We went on holiday. The two of us and her boyfriend, who funded it, of course. We hadn't really gone on holidays before then. She had problems walking, got tired easily. In one of our walks, her leg shakes so bad she fell. We thought it was her shoes. They were new, bought by her boyfriend. She wasn't really used to high heels. It wasn't the shoes. Back to the hospital. I was staying alone at home. It was university at minutes exam period. I got in the school I wanted. Great news. Called my mom, who was at the hospital. She lit up. I could hear it in her voice. A week later, me and my uncle, her brother who lives in Greece, were called in the hospital. The three of us in the doctor's office. My mom got diagnosed with motor neuron disease. The neurologist didn't really tell all the details. He lied. It may leave and come back sometime in the future, maybe 10 years down the road. He didn't tell us how horrible it is. He didn't tell us my mom will die, that there is no cure currently, just trials. In fact, he didn't really help or guide me in any way. It was like she was never his patient. I promised her I would take care of her, no matter what. I promised her something will turn out good for us. No way. In a year, so much can happen, Mom. We will look back and laugh. Everything will go fine. Day by day, it was worse. She was telling me, and I was seeing it. I tried to go to school to not upset her. Promise me, you will go to school. You will study. You are strong, she said. I tried not to cry in front of her. I cried every time on the way there and on the way back. It was getting worse. I couldn't bear the thought of going to school when my mom was at home like that, so I skipped a lot. Sometimes her boyfriend came, stayed for a while, helped. He didn't live here though. He left again to work. Then my mom's mother came, my grandma. She helped around too. They all had planned for my mother to go to them, my grandparents in Albania, when things get even worse. She told me, "No, I will take care of you, Mom, no matter what." She was worried about my mental health. She was worried about me seeing her die. She was worried about my school. The day came. We got her into Albania. She would stay at my grandparents'. With them lived my mom's older brother, married with 2 children. I had to return back. I stayed with my mom's younger brother, who lives in Greece, married too, with 2 children as well. I video called my mom every day. Her voice started to change. As her voice was getting worse, my soul was getting ripped apart. I went another time up there. She was having a lot of problems. Huge back pain, couldn't even sit on the wheelchair, needed to rotate her when she slept. She couldn't really sleep. She was uncomfortable and in continuous pain. Around that time, she told us that she will need breathing support. We got it. She felt better. Around that time came her boyfriend too. We were all there. He left a day before I did. She said, "You are all leaving. Mom, we will always be there for you. Always love you." Why did I go back to Greece? She was telling us her parents are getting on her nerves, that she can't live another minute there. So grateful for my uncle's wife. She was enormously helpful and kind to my mother there. Sometime later, I was planning on going again. But as a surprise, I thought, I'll go at the end of the week, Friday. Attend my classes and lab and then stay for a long while. I had a hard time understanding my mom on the call those days. She also seemed in such a really worse mood and complained about my grandparents. They were turning her insane, I thought to myself. Well, me surprising her might brighten her mood at least. Thursday. Phone call to my uncle. He was crying. He was calling his wife. He told me we are leaving today. I knew. I didn't ask. I was silent the whole drive. My uncle was speeding like a maniac. We got stopped, but he talked his way out of it. We were under my grandparents' house. Felt like 200 people were on the balcony outside of the apartment floor. I knew. An uncle of my mom's was waiting us down the hall. He took my hand. "Be strong. Your mother will want you strong. She is not in a good condition." I didn't talk. We climbed the stairs slowly. I entered the room slowly. A lot of women, old, young, were sitting on the couch. I looked at my mom. She wasn't awake. Her eyelids were half open. She was hardly breathing. I told my grandma to make the people inside leave. She told me I can't. You will. I talked to my mom. I hugged her, not tight because I remember she would be in pain or not breathe easily. I told her about my grade on math. I'd gotten a 10. I'll make you proud, Mom. I love you and always will. Please watch over me and I'll make you proud. My grandma told me it's time to go. My uncles and my cousin took me to a cafe down the road. I lived with my uncle in Greece afterwards. For about a year, I changed schools, mechanical engineering to electrical and computer engineering. Let's make a change. I tried to be a bit more social. I found some new friends and through them met a wonderful girl. So glad I changed schools. Second semester, I moved to the dormitory to live alone. Close to school, away from my uncle. We got together with that girl. We clicked from the moment we first talked. Beautiful, smart, funny. School was hard, but I didn't mind that much. I was doing great. She was doing great too. We were happy together. Happy. Third year, first semester. My uncle, who lives in Albania, fell while he was working. He took a leave. His leg kept getting worse. He was fearing it was the same thing. Everyone reassured him otherwise. Me too. There's no way. It was already so rare for her. What kind of odds would it be? She was 39 years old. It was the same thing. 5 months ago, he died. I couldn't visit because of the pandemic. I still haven't. Third year, second semester. This semester was really hard, full of assignments and work. Every single day, work and pressure. The semester ended. Exam period was starting. We still had assignments due though, 4 a.m., 3 months ago. About to say goodnight to my lovely girlfriend. My left hand trembles like crazy. For what seemed like 10 minutes, definitely way less. I took a video, sent it to her. Don't worry about it, honey. If it still persists, we'll see about it. Don't search symptoms like you do. We said goodnight. I Googled hand tremor. Long list of causes. Anxiety, stress, blood pressure, etc. Well, I've been really stressed. At the very end of the list, ALS. I dropped my phone. I try not to think about it. I had a panic attack. I called her. She came almost immediately. I love her. I want to marry her, I'm saying to myself. I noticed my pinky falling, and I got more scared. Touching things and lifting them felt different. I knew. My girlfriend kind of moved in with me. I went to a lot of neurologists. To a lot. They all did clinical examinations, didn't see anything. They all thought it was psychosomatic, that I was afraid because of family history. I didn't ever think of the possibility of me getting it now, though. I didn't even know the possibility of me having the same gene was 50%. I had an EMG, turned out fine. Had MRIs, blood tests, turned out fine. I hoped otherwise, so something other than that would be the cause. Everyone around me started to believe it was in my head too. It drove me crazy. Almost every day I was thinking of going to a doctor. Let's get this over with. I was seeing myself get worse every day. Every day some muscle was spazzing out. My wonderful girlfriend, the love of my life, was with me the whole time. I don't know what I would do without her. 2 weeks ago, I had a second EMG. Still fine. Then 5 days ago, had a clinical examination. It took longer. I could hear the doctor's frustration. I could see that everything was worse. Even my facial muscles. Scariest part. We had planned vacations. We were supposed to leave at the 25th. 4 days from now. We were happy. I was happy. I love her with all my heart. I'm 21 and I have ALS. My 4-year-old son is autistic and I hate him. I hate being a parent. I hate everything about this. I'm so tired of having to deal with it all. The tantrums, the lack of comprehension, the aggression, and the inability of us being unable to do anything or go anywhere because of him. I hate my son. I know a lot of people will hate me for this, but I truly just want to get it off my chest without anyone who knows me knowing. I want to finally spill all the beans and get it out here, and I'm hoping this will be cathartic for me. I already know I need personal mental help. Alas, no monies for that. People will also suggest getting him help as well. No money for that either. Though he already is in a local state-sponsored 2.5-hour daily program for kids with disabilities. It's helping, but it only goes so far. There are many things I despise in the world, from politics to healthcare, or their lack of, to business practices to just people in general. I also love many things around here, so no, I'm not a grumpy old man who just hates anyone and everything. There are even people I'd be oh so happy to see suffer a slow and painful death. But there is one thing I would never wish on them: a child with autism. I'll start off by saying I truly don't know how single parents and happy/good parents with kids with disabilities do it. I truly do not understand how you have so much strength to get through the day and still be in one piece mentally. I wish I knew how. Today, all I wanted to do was something seemingly simple, and it even started off well. Go fuel up the car, then walk around a bit to get the coffee. He had fun in the car, but as soon as the car ride was over and we had to go left instead of going right, the tantrums, screaming, scratching, pinching, and all started. He wanted this instead of that. More tantrums. Right instead of left next time. And worse and worse. All I wanted was a damn cup of fresh coffee that I didn't have to brew myself. We, wife and I, work from home, and a decent amount of time we have to spend dealing with him. I use that word specifically as it's not the, oh cool, that's a cool car you have, let's play a bit. Not that kind of stuff. It's the, for the 1000th time, do not stab the dog with a stick. Please play with the bouncing ball, not against my head. Again. We've talked about this a million times. Do not touch the audio equipment. And on and on and on. I'm getting tired of having to repeat the exact same very simple things over and over and over, day in and day out. You might say, but dad with an autistic kid. Kids don't understand stuff, you have to be nicer to them. They'll get it. I hear ya. But there is only so many times at this stage you can repeat the simplest of things without getting frustrated. Be it how to put on shoes, just putting them on, not tying them. We need to go right instead of straight. This is how we go up the stairs. Please wait here for 5 seconds while I order coffee. I'm tired. I should have never been a dad. This truly has been the worst decision of my life, and I regret everything about it. Save for a few minor points here and there. These 4 years have been horrible and only getting worse, and it's largely because of him. Logically speaking, it's not because of him. It's just my perception and view of the world in which I cause myself to get angry on things that I should not, such as his inability or ability to comprehend differently than us. Logically, sure. Emotionally, this took an hour to type up. I'm trying to get better. I'm trying not to get mad. I'm trying not to yell at him. I just can't help but be frustrated and yell at him sometimes. I know it's wrong, and there's no excuse for me acting the way I am. I feel like shit for yelling at him and dragging him home while he was wailing because he wanted to go that way, and I wanted to go home so I can go back to work. He doesn't understand the stress of work, of time, of other people's desires/needs. I understand he doesn't comprehend most of what we're doing, both because of age and because of his autism, and it breaks my heart seeing all these normal kids his age doing normal things, and he just doesn't get it, and probably never will. I feel like a failure for having a kid like that. I feel like a failure for not being a better and good enough father, parent, and man to be able to help him properly. I just don't. We're currently back home, and to try to make it up to him, he's gotten some hugs, some of his favorite juice, and I turned on his favorite Lego game. So whoever you people are at Nintendo and Lego who make your games accessible to kids, whoever you are, thank you very much. Without you, I don't know what I'd do. The Lego games are always fun. and we figured he'd like the Lego City game, and he adores it. It's the first real video game he's played, and pretty much the first thing other than just cars and trains he's truly played with. Thank you. And yes, for those wondering, he and I do play it together sometimes in the evenings or on weekends. As for now, I'm going to sit in a corner, drink my coffee, and cry, and think about how shitty of a dad I am. Am I the worst father out there? No. That type of comparison doesn't help me. No matter what, I always end up comparing myself to parents with normal kids. My wife already knows what I think of him, though she doesn't know I hate him. She will never know. Whatever I do, I know I need to be better and do better. At least to round this off on a few positive notes, writing this out has helped clear my sinuses out a bit, as well as being a good load off of my shoulders. The school program he is in has helped me immensely, since he has started as he's now able to put several words together into a mini sentence with some prompting and direction. He is getting surprisingly better rather quickly at video games, so I hope to find more he can play soon. He does like cars, so I'm going to try to find city-oriented ones, though I hear the new Yoshi game is nice. Maybe he'll like it. I don't know. I think they have a demo to try. My mother helps out sometimes, which is amazing when she's able to. And when times are good, things are sometimes kind of fun with him around. I hope he can be both my gaming and hiking buddy in the future. Thanks for reading. Evening Edit. Thank you everyone for all your kind words and suggestions. I've never even considered contacting a disability services forum, local community, such as the church groups, and local fellow parents with kids who need help groups. You'll be pleased to know I've given him extra hugs, kind words, snuggles, and playtime. We both calmed down a lot. Many of your heartfelt messages truly made me tear up. Thank you. Tomorrow, I'll be looking into local disability services, and since it's a day off from school, Good Friday, I'll take some time off of work and walk around with him, weather permitting, or play a lot with him. I will be heading to bed now. Thank you all very much, truly. Everything you've all written has given me a lot to think about. Thank you, and good night. And alright guys, that wraps up some deranged confession threads, and comment down below what you thought about this video, and if you'd like to see these videos be longer, please send in some more confessions. Please make sure you write them with proper grammar and all that sort of stuff. It makes it easier to read, but I read every single confession you guys send in. They might not all make it to a video, but I still appreciate you sending it in. Nonetheless, you can send it to the email in the description. Yeah, thank you so much for watching to the end of the video. It means the world. And like I said, please comment down below your thoughts, and please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps more than you know. And yeah, this video was just wild. There were some insane confessions, and like the title says, deranged. So I hope you at least found it entertaining or interesting, to say the least. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. It means the world. And this was Snook, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Mysteries plague the internet. There are endless videos of strange clips, eerie accounts, and unexplained uploads. But sometimes you stumble upon something different. A piece of media so disturbing, it drags you down a rabbit hole, clue after clue, until you uncover something unimaginably horrifying. From a desperate father searching for his stolen son, to cryptic channels tied to horrific crimes, and to footage that shows people being exploited for profit. Today, we're diving into some horrifying internet mysteries. Make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. And let's get into it. Abzar Akbar. It's a warm, sunny day in Tianshu, China. Late September brings out nearly perfect weather here. There's almost no rain, and the temperature stays in the 70s. The town has beautiful temples, incredible caves, and breathtaking views. And on top of that, it's not a tourist trap. It's far from top destinations like Beijing and Shanghai. So on a wonderful autumn day, Tianshu is filled with residents walking around, getting some shopping done, or enjoying a nice dinner after work. They are living their regular life, not expecting anything out of the ordinary to happen. But Abzar Akbar just arrived from Bangladesh, and his life is anything but normal right now. But this wasn't always the case. Before traveling to China, Abzar had a peaceful life. He taught English as a second language, spent time with his family, and explored his home country of Bangladesh. He was happy, content, and making the most of every day. All of these experiences he wanted to share with the world. And this was back in 2009, when the internet was a little more wholesome, when the average person filmed a home video and posted it online for their friends to see, thinking maybe it'd go viral. Abzar was no different. He posted his first video on February 15th, 2009. He's standing on a hanging bridge in Rangamati, Bangladesh. The camera pans across the lake he's looking out on, small islands spotted in the horizon. The video quality is low, but his enthusiasm is not. Behind the camera, he gives interesting facts about the attraction and encourages people to visit.
Please come and visit. This is Alex here from Chittagong. Goodbye.
Then he spins the camera around and closes out. And he kept posting. He has videos on weddings, birthday parties, and food in Bangladesh. They were just ordinary videos about his culture. But his desire to share was short-lived. He posted 6 videos in 2009 and then disappeared. He went back to work, focusing on his students. The account was dead for 4 years. But his life was not put on hold. In that time, a lot happened for Abzar. His whole world flipped upside down with a new addition. On June 27th, 2010, his baby boy was brought into this world. He named him Washington, hoping that an Americanized name would benefit him in getting a good education. Washington was everything to Abzar, and all they had was each other. Shortly after he was born, Abzar's wife decided she didn't want a family. She didn't want anything to do with it, so she abandoned them. Her reasoning is unknown. All I do know is that this left Abzar overwhelmed. Now all of a sudden he was working full time, changing diapers, getting his baby to sleep, and making sure he was properly fed. It was a lot at once, and he wasn't expecting it. But none of that really mattered to him. Quote, "Washington is the apple of my eye," he said. He loved him more than he had loved anyone. They were best friends. He couldn't stand to be apart from him. It was a gift to be his father. But still, he wanted his son to have a relationship with his mother. His wife, or maybe his ex-wife at this time, was from Tianshu, China. So he hauled them up there to try and find her. They did this on 3 separate occasions. Each time, he would find his wife's mom or her friends, but not her. He was pissed off. It wasn't fair of her to leave, and he wanted answers. But that was the furthest thing from what he got. On a chilly winter day in early 2013, they were walking around downtown Tianshu. This was the 3rd time they went looking, and he was about to give up. But then, without warning, Washington watched his dad fall to the ground. Someone, a stranger to the child, had pushed him down and continued to beat his father. It all happened so quickly. Abzar had no time to defend himself. He just prayed and hoped that the attack would be over soon. And when it was, he opened his eyes and immediately looked for Washington. But his 3-year-old kid was gone. Nowhere to be seen. In the blink of an eye, disappeared. All of a sudden, Abzar was living in a nightmare. His whole world, his everything, was ripped from his hands. Immediately, he knew who it was. While the perpetrator may have been a stranger to the son, Abzar recognized them. Friends of his ex-wife. She must have sent them. The person who abandoned his family now had torn them apart. He was a wreck, walking around with an empty stroller, not sure where to start in looking for his son. He got the police, desperate for help. He told them everything, how his ex-wife left, it was just the 2 of them for the last 3 years, how he loves his son more than anything, and he knew she was behind this. But there was a problem. No matter how much he loved his baby, or how beaten up he was, how distressed he wasn't from China. He was a foreigner. So, Chinese police didn't give a shit. It wasn't their problem. They said there was nothing they could do. And that was exactly what they did. Nothing. And Abzar couldn't stay in China long, as his visa would soon expire. He had to tear himself away. If it was up to him, he would stay in Tianshu and look for his son day and night. But he had to go home, and at home, he would figure out a plan. And in the next 6 months, that's what he did. He got back to China, stormed into the police station, and demanded their help. His son was kidnapped in their country, so this was their problem. They had to fix it. But it was like arguing with a brick wall. His first video on this was posted about 6 months after the kidnapping, after he had been back in China for 8 days. He's behind the camera, filming an argument between him and 2 officers. There's 2 issues right off the bat. Besides the fact that the police barely let Abzar get a word in, there's also a huge language barrier. Abzar speaks only a little Chinese, and the officers don't speak either of the languages he speaks, Bengali and English. Basically, they're getting nowhere. It's now been 6 months without his son, and Abzar is losing his mind. Law enforcement is doing absolutely nothing to help him, if they can even understand him, and he has to figure out a way to stay in the country for as long as possible, to do everything he can to find his baby. And that, he does. While police sit on their ass, he starts making flyers to distribute around town. He shows this in a video uploaded 2 months after the previous one. Watching it, it's like watching a man fall apart. He starts by walking around town, the flyers in his hand. Front and center is a picture of Washington, smiling at the camera. The first person Abzar walks up to is a young woman with a baby in the stroller. She takes the flyer and looks at it for a moment, while the camera pans over to the kid with her. They look up at Abzar with curiosity, not sure why he seems so upset. The shot lingers on that child for a little bit longer, and the more it does, the more I can feel Abzar's heart breaking, praying that he can have his son the way that woman can have her baby. He continues looking for more people though. The town is busy, and he's talking to everyone he can, hoping that someone, anyone can help. He goes back to the police station, looking for more answers, thinking maybe if he keeps showing up, someone will take him seriously. This argument is just like before though. No one can really understand him, and when they can, they just don't listen to him. Finally, they send him up to a different floor of the station, telling him someone up there will help. When he gets there, they begin to shut down the entire police station. He's enraged now. He starts letting everyone know how sick and tired he is of their treatment, shoving the flyers in their faces, yelling, crying out for help, demanding at the very least sympathy from them, asking over and over what they would do if their son was kidnapped. And they just walk away, ignoring him, barely giving him the time of day. It's cruel, cold, and heartless. But Abzar persisted. He continued to battle with the police, going back again and again, or visiting Foreign Affairs and looking for an answer there. He tried to figure out ways to work and stay in the country longer, but there was a problem there too. He had previously taught English in China for years, and that employer wouldn't grant him a letter of release, making him unable to find a new job and unable to stay in the country for very long. Again, he went to the police, Foreign Affairs, anyone to help, and there was nothing. No one gave him a solution or support of any kind. It was just arguments over and over. The whole country was against him. I'm not sure there was much else he could do. It's heartbreaking to think he may have given up, but sadly, we don't know what happened. He posted 6 videos in 2013 about the search for Washington. Then a year later, made a post dedicated to him, when he shared the story of his birth and the slideshow of his favorite pictures of his son, then a couple more random videos on ordinary things from his life, then nothing. Nothing at all. His last video was posted on January 21st, 2015. It's just him filming a piece of hardware he bought for a new business idea, something to show to his students. Not a word about Washington, no hint as to what happened. That was 11 years ago. By now, Washington would be 14 years old, growing up, doing homework, hanging out with friends. Is Abzar getting to watch any of that? If it's even happening? It's terrible, but his son may not be living a happy childhood wherever he went. Or worse, not living at all. These are the thoughts that ran through Abzar's head the longer he was separated from his kidnapped child. The torment he went through as he begged police to reunite them. Going through his videos, it's watching a man go through hell. Living in a nightmare. A nightmare he may still be living in. Did Abzar find Washington? Or at least find out where he was, or if he was safe? Well, no one has any clue. There are a couple comments on his last video, and some posts on Reddit where people talk about this, trying to dig in and find any details that give us an answer. But there's nothing. Just an inactive YouTube channel, haunted by this tragedy. Imagine it's 2012 and you're watching YouTube. You've watched hours of epic rap battles, Smosh, and replayed Gangnam Style a couple of times. Before you log off for the night, you come across one more viral video. It's on a seemingly innocent channel, Little Baby's Ice Cream. The thumbnail shows a person covered in ice cream, and the video has a whopping 22 million views. So it's bound to be interesting. And well, it is. Within 5 seconds, anyone watching this is for sure to be freaked out. This person has their eyes open as wide as possible, like bulging out of their head, not blinking at all. As the ice cream drips down their face, they scoop it off and into their mouth, all while they stare into your soul. Then in the back, some creepy music that's being played in reverse. The video is an ad for a legit company, but the whole thing is downright weird. And oh boy, it's about to get even more strange. When 7 years later, someone resurfaced the video. Well, recreating it rather, putting a disturbing spin on it. January 5th, 2018. The first one of these emerges. It's a 34-second clip of an edited version of the ad, posted on a channel called Kinky Little Couple, with the title, People Are Dying 1-2. The creepiness is taken to a whole new level. Everything is slowed down, and the ice cream person now has all of their features removed. They're now just a white animation in front of a purple background. There's music playing, if you can even call it music. It more sounds like someone's stomach grumbling or some sort of weird internal noise. I don't know, that's the best way to describe it. And it's slowed down and really, really freaky. And it's menacing, ominous, and honestly terrifying. Here, give it a listen for a few seconds and just feel how unsettling this entire clip is. And yeah, like I said, disturbing. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. This channel has 217 videos, all posted in early 2018. There's a lot of videos that are variations of that ice cream video. Some are pretty much the same, just different lengths and colors, but then one pops up that literally sent shivers down my spine. It starts out the same, but then there's a deep guttural moaning in the background. It's drawn out. You can't really tell if it's trying to say something or not. It's almost like trying to hear the last words of a dying man. But just as you think it's nothing, then it cuts to black. The video is over. Nothing else. No explanation. No hint as to who Clementine is and why someone is demanding her murder. And by the way, all of these clips have less than 1,000 views. The one I just showed you had like 15 views, which makes it even more unsettling because nobody is watching these videos. I don't know who it's meant for or anything like that. And for these just to be so underground and for no one to even know they exist just makes it that much more unsettling. It feels like I'm not supposed to be watching it. And the questions I have just get bigger and bigger. It's not just the ice cream videos, and it's not just this channel. There's 4 channels that seem to be from the same creator. I Want to Die, Tim Franks, Ben Knox, and the original Kinky Little Couple. All of them post very similar content. Besides the ice cream ads, there's probably 50 videos of clips from JJ's Jet Plane, an animated children's TV show from the 90s. The show by itself is innocent and wholesome, but of course, these aren't normal clips. They've altered the color and everything is pixelated and blurry. All you see is a cartoon plane with a smile flying around as an animated man watches him motionless. He almost looks like a toy soldier. And again, that deep, dark, and menacing background noise. And to top it all off, covering everything, are bold letters that read, "I'm watching you now." It looks like it's from someone's nightmare. And to be honest, guys, while I was researching this video and honestly recording this right now, I have never felt so unsettled and disturbed by a single YouTube channel than I have from this one. All of the videos are just so nightmarish. They are so terrifying, and I have covered numerous internet topics and some of the most disturbing things on the internet, and for some reason, this channel is just freaking me the fuck out. But let's continue. Then another common video found is a British animated PSA against illegal material involving minors. This one isn't edited in a similar fashion. Nothing is slowed down, and there's no deep voice in the background. Obviously though, it's incredibly weird that this channel is posting a PSA of this nature. It doesn't feel random. It feels intentional. In fact, the whole thing feels very calculated. When first looking at all of these channels, it may not seem like that at the first glance. It's hundreds of videos that look the same. It must be some bored, weird kid who discovered iMovie. I mean, that's an easy answer, but they're not all the same. In fact, they're usually different, even if it's in small ways. Why only some of them? It's like a puzzle, a never-ending puzzle. Because whoever this is doesn't stop at YouTube. There's Pinterest and VMO accounts under the name Kinky Little Couple, and a WordPress blog. The content here is different. One VMO account posts short clips of a solid colored background that slowly changes color as it goes on. That's it. No words, no sound, nothing at all. The other account posts clips from a Britain's Got Talent audition from 2014. The original video is very heartwarming. An 80-year-old woman and a younger man blow the audience away with their salsa dance. But of course, they had to make it weird. Again, they've distorted the color and also put it through some filters so it looks like you're watching it through a funhouse mirror. They've taken audio clips from the performance, but it makes it sound haunted and unsettling, like you have no idea if you're listening to music or someone screaming under distress. And then there's the WordPress blog. The main header says kinky little couple, but the blog itself is called Dead End with a bunch of random numbers at the end. It's one page, but they've packed in as much as they can on it. It starts out with some stock photos of a happy family, but as you scroll down, it's one picture after another of random old people. There's nothing wrong with these pictures, but why? Some of them are really goofy, like old women making silly faces. In any other context, it'd be totally fine, but this blog post isn't just stock images. There's one post, if you can call it that. It reads, "I found you. Everything is over. Good company makes the way seem shorter. Isaac Walton." At this point, all of this seems so jumbled, like nothing makes sense. It's all a bunch of bullshit trying to scare people, and finding an answer almost starts to feel hopeless. But then there's the Pinterest accounts. And at first, it seems like the same random shit with the same kinky little couple repeated everywhere. Again, pictures of old people, but also lots of animals, hairstyle ideas, and recipes. It's so close to being a normal Pinterest account. But of course, it's not. No. On one of the accounts, the bio says, "There is no excuse for SA." And the account username is "Stop Abusing Young Girls." Finally, it feels like there's a clue as to what the point of all of this is. Well, it doesn't feel like a stretch to assume kinky little couple could be an actual adult content creator. So finding that out feels like the next step. Looking on the more popular adult film platforms, I didn't see an account with that name, but some videos attached to it. Going further through, I found tons of videos on one site that uploads stolen material from an adult content creator woman. So again, no actual account, but all of the videos are tagged as kinky little couple. So there are real people behind the name. It's most likely this girl had an account years ago, but deleted it at some point. Now all that's left is pirated on other sites. But who is she? Well, one user on Reddit found a post on a website that reads, quote, "I was thinking of posting a few people I would love to spend one day with, but to be honest, I only need 2. I'm sure a lot of you haven't heard of her. Maybe you have, but Kinky Little Couple's Anna. She's a beautiful, extremely cute, sweet, lovable, perfect angel to die for." So, is Kinky Little Couple Anna? Well, the comments say otherwise. Comments from people that have been digging into this. There are posts on Reddit that claim they found the original Kinky Little Couple account on the Wayback Archive, and there was more information about her, that she was an art student, and that her name is Clementine. Well, wait. You heard that right. Clementine. The girl that voice in the video wants dead. But what's frustrating is that I can't actually see this vital piece of info. Looking up exactly what other users looked up months ago only shows the pirated content, not the page on the Wayback Machine. But at the bottom of the search on Google, it does say this, quote, "In response to multiple complaints we received under the US Digital Millennium Copyright Act, we have removed 3 results from this page. When clicking on one complaint, I see that it was made shortly after these videos started to resurface and gain attention on Reddit. So, is the archived account gone? Well, it seems like it, and that's the only verifiable proof of her name. Well, whoever found that name connected to Kinky Little Couple lets the user on the website know, posting, quote, "How do you know her name is Anna? People are saying her name is Clementine," which is a great question. Where did this user even get the idea that her name is Anna? Is there more information that's also being hidden? Well, another comment, quote, "She was forced into doing adult content stuff. She was R-worded, abused, and was locked into her apartment for days. She later committed S-word. But hey, I'm glad your tiny private part feels good." All of these weird, bizarre, and unsettling accounts, is there a victim behind all of it? An innocent girl in need of help? I mean, a comment on a random website for a bunch of pervs isn't exactly evidence, but it's horrifying to think about. And that commenter isn't the only one sharing this. There are multiple posts on not safe for work subreddits that are looking for kinky little couple but can't find any of the videos. Users comment, quote, "Be aware, not only was that girl a minor, but she later committed S-word because of the abuse she was put through by that dude." Someone else says, "Oh, she committed S-word. The guy in this forced all this on her and abused the hell out of her. She was a good friend of mine." Both made by different accounts. One made a year before any of the YouTube videos or anything was released. So, I don't know. 3 comments about this girl being abused, hundreds and hundreds of disturbing videos, a blog with a threatening message. There's something so off about all of this. Of course, the people invested in this have tons of theories. Some say that it's an ARG, or that it's a real couple trying to cover up their intimate history. These do make sense in some ways, but they don't explain everything. At some point with an ARG, the creator reveals what it was. All of this was posted over 7 years ago, and that hasn't happened. And if it was this couple trying to deflect attention off their adult film content, it didn't really work. Everything is so terrifying and absurd that, of course, people are going to look into it. And then eventually they end up on a video they were trying to hide. I mean, it's horrific to think that there could be something evil behind all of this, but there's so many signs that point to that. Besides the obvious fact that there are multiple people saying she's been abused, it's even in the YouTube videos. In the PSA for illegal material involving minors, the narrator starts out the video by saying, quote, "The pictures I look at, the children are smiling. I don't get it when I hear people talk about abuse." Someone might think that when watching Clementine in her videos, she behaves like a normal adult film star, acting out all the things that, adult film stars do. But that doesn't mean that everything's okay. In fact, this could be said for anyone working in adult films, especially young women. Of course, anyone who watches this content wants to believe that everything is consensual and appropriate, but that's just not the case. Many women go into the industry as a last resort or coercion of some kind, and as many as 9 in 10 adult films contain violence in some way, it's only inevitable to think that in that environment, someone is being abused. So no, it doesn't seem like a stretch that kinky little couple, Clementine, whatever you want to call her, could be in trouble. The question is more of who's behind all of this? Is it a stalker, the other person in the couple, or Clementine herself crying out for help? It seems sort of unlikely that it's Clementine herself, but it could be considering how much attention this has brought to her. But it seems more likely that there's someone behind this who has some obsession with her, and they're expressing it in this morbid, terrifying way. Or, like a lot of people are suggesting, it's nothing at all. It's some weirdo trying to get the internet worked up, and people are falling right into it. And I can only hope it's as simple as that. TikTok is home to thousands and thousands of videos, including get ready with me's, lip syncing, and dance challenges, or commentary on current events. It's the place so many spend hours doom scrolling before bed. But occasionally, when someone is in too deep on the app, they go beyond their usual harmless videos. They end up on the weird, freaky, and strange side of their algorithm. And once you're there, you're not sure how to get off. This is what happens when users stumble upon an account like Geka1201 example com2, and I'm just gonna call him Geka for short. Watching their first couple of videos, nothing seems too out of the ordinary. It seems like it's just a normal account run by a Russian user. The first video is someone filming a man sleeping on a couch and another man fixing a toilet. Based on Google Translate, they seem to only talk about the repair on the toilet. Just another random TikTok video. But things get unsettling the more you watch. The second video is an older man in a pretty much bare room, except for a couch in the corner. The audio in the back is an electronic dance song, something you might hear at a rave. The video is cut up clips of this guy dancing, which I guess seems unsuspicious on the surface, but not if you rewatch a couple of times. He looks exhausted, like he doesn't really know what he's doing. I don't know, he just looks out of it. But the more that I look at this account, I start to see that this video is nothing compared to some others that they've posted. The dancing continues, but it stops being just a feeling that something is off. There is definitely something wrong. It's not just that man anymore. There are a couple different reoccurring people. Sometimes they're dancing, or sometimes they're just sitting, talking, or eating. More often than not, one is dancing and others are in the background. Here's one example that shows how creepy this is. Two men are dancing along to a Russian song. One of the guys seems relatively normal, maybe just a little awkward. But then the other guy, there's something wrong with the other guy. He has a blonde wig on, a bra painted on his chest, and underwear over his pants. It could point to a unique way of self-expressing, but I highly doubt it, because there's also this girl in the back sitting on a wooden chair. She's staring off into the corner, almost like she's trying to avoid looking at the men in front of her. She looks absolutely miserable. She doesn't want to be there. That much is obvious. It makes the whole thing look staged, put together like an act. And if this girl doesn't want to be there, do either of these guys? It sounds crazy, but it feels more realistic the more I look at this account. In some videos, they have buckets over their heads or words painted on their body, and they either look uncomfortable in the background or they're in the front dancing, but look spaced out, like they're not all there. At this point, viewers are confused. The comments are filled with concern. Someone says, "I've said this so many times. I don't think they are okay, but how do we do something about it?" Someone else says, "This is that House of Horrors vibe. Anyone looking into it?" And another says, "Makes me wonder what he's making them do off camera." Users want to help these people immediately. It's not just the tired looks, the forced dancing, and the weird clothes, because if you look closely, these people don't look healthy. Many are covered in bruises, some looking very severe. They're along their faces, their heads, or parts of their body. Yet everyone in the videos pretends like everything is fine. They just keep going, swaying to the music, barely conscious or standing up, spacing out as the camera watches them. It's inhumane to film someone in that state, or worse, to force them to do this. That's not all that's being forced though. In some videos, people started noticing what they're eating. Sometimes it's normal things, like I notice them having grapes, or often they drink beer. But other times they have bowls in front of them filled with cat food, cat kibble, the dry, brown, tasteless meal that we give to animals. These poor, bruised up, and bone-tired people are not only forced to dance for TikTok, but also to eat cat food? It's beyond sickening. But thank God users were catching on. They're going insane in the comments, trying to figure out ways to contact authorities in Russia and get this shut down. But then some figure out what's going on. And it's not so simple, because these videos are a part of a larger group of videos in Russia, Poland, and Ukraine. It's called trash streaming. It's basically a genre of live streaming where creators will have themselves or someone else do crazy, humiliating, or dangerous behavior in order to get a lot of views. This has led to incredibly tragic incidents, some resulting in death. There was one streamer who was just sick. He poured cold water over his girlfriend's head, locked her outside on the balcony in just her underwear, and left her to die of hypothermia. Then, like the disgusting human he is, he filmed her dead body after he just murdered her for views. So that's what these people are dealing with. Whoever is filming them is a part of this trash streaming culture, and they're forcing these innocent people to do these horrible things to get likes and donations. They are raking in money off their suffering. There's an article circulating on Reddit that talks about some of these extreme trash streaming incidents, including something that happened with the people in these videos. One of the older men was paid to drink an excessive amount of vodka during a live stream. His name was Yuri Dushakin. It's not clear exactly how much he was forced to drink, but it was enough to kill him. He passed away shortly after that. And who knows how long the stream was, but looking at some of the TikToks, people can see timestamps on the laptop of the person behind the camera. Sometimes they'll have been going for 24 hours straight. A whole day without breaks. Only given cat food and vodka. Forced to dance for hours and hours in humiliating clothing and body paint. There is speculation that these people are homeless, possibly living in poverty, and doing this for housing and food in return. Whether that's the case or not, it's still despicable. Everyone is deserving of food and shelter, and shouldn't have to be forced into humiliation and dangerous conditions in order to have them. It's diabolical. Exploiting these people for money, it's beyond cruel. And it's heartbreaking to think that these people may never have gotten help. Many of the trash streamers don't get convicted, and I have a feeling whoever's behind this is no different. In a couple videos, there's a paper on the wall with a YouTube channel name. The channel's videos are all in Russian, so it's hard to get an idea of what's happening, but it seems to be more podcast-style videos, much different than the TikTok account. But still, it seems whoever was behind Geka is also behind this channel. And while the last TikTok was posted 4 years ago in 2022, the last YouTube video was posted 7 months ago in June of 2025. So nothing happened. The monster abusing these people in the videos was never punished. Trash streaming started to lose its popularity in 2022, which not coincidentally is when the TikTok video stopped. And then the creator just went about their life and moved on to making different things. But what happened to the victims? Well, years later, no one knows. Were there more deaths that we aren't aware of? Were they just abandoned or thrown out into the street? Discarded when they weren't needed anymore? I hope they got out and found a much better life. A peaceful life where they didn't need to stay up for days, forced to entertain an audience that pays to watch their agony. And hopefully, whoever is behind Geka 1202 ExampleCom 2 doesn't make another cent off those videos. And alright guys, that wraps up some horrifying internet mysteries, and yeah, these mysteries were horrifying. These were some of the most disturbing mysteries I have ever got into and some of the weirdest internet media I have ever seen. And yeah, please leave your thoughts down below. I read every single comment and I'm very curious to hear what you guys thought of this video. And comment down below and let me know if you'd like to see another installment in this series. This is a brand new series, so let me know if you'd like to see another one. And please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps more than you know. And if you enjoyed this video, I'm sure you'll enjoy other videos on the channel. So go check out some other videos. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. It means the world. And this was Snook, and I'll see you next time. Bye. When something horrific happens, the internet never forgets. Except when it does. Sometimes tragedy leaves no trail behind. No video, no audio, no final record that it ever happened at all. Every recording erased, every copy destroyed or sealed away by someone who decided the public was never meant to see it. And the reason is always the same. What was captured was too disturbing, too violent, or too heartbreaking to be released into the world. Today, we are getting into the horrors of lost media. Not creepy cartoons or vanished TV shows, but real footage tied to real tragedy. Moments so dark they were buried and quietly forgotten. Make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. And let's get into it. Clear Man. One of the more popular, long-standing reality TV shows is also a brutal one. You may have heard of it. Survivor. A show that debuted in 2000 on CBS. A show where contestants are thrown into the wilderness with nothing but the clothes on their backs. They have to find food, shelter, and form relationships with other contestants to avoid getting kicked off. The members all compete in mental and physical challenges, where winning provides them immunity from elimination. The last man standing takes home $1 million. The show has aired 50 seasons since 2000, but that's just in America. There are actually around 40 adaptations around the world, but not all adaptations have been successful. In 2009, Pakistan decided to jump on board and create their version of Survivor. It was set with an all-male cast, and while produced for Pakistani television, it was to be filmed in Thailand. The show was sponsored by Unilever, a huge Pakistani company that produces and sells personal care products. Wanting to market their new shampoo brand, which went by the name of Clear Shampoo, they named the show Clear Man. Interesting name. Apparently, the winner would be given the title of Clear Man and presumably prize money. I couldn't find how much the prize money was, but according to the internet, there was prize money. I hope it was substantial so the winner got more than just that title of Clear Man. But there was one man who wasn't interested in the title or the money. Let's meet our first contestant, Saad Khan. Saad signed up for the show not to win something, but for the challenge. He was living a pretty normal life in a quiet part of Pakistan. He worked at a bank, went home to a wife and 4 young kids. Everything was routine. The prospect to flying to Thailand, living in the wilderness, competing against other men, it was exciting for Saad. He was a family man who wanted to see what the world had to offer, and he felt ready for any challenge the show gave to him. Saad gave it his all. He quickly became very popular on the show, many of the other contestants becoming good friends with him. They were actually quite sad when Saad was eliminated in episode 4. Members were challenged to successfully throw a basketball into a net 10 feet above the ground while standing on an ice block. This proved to be difficult for Saad, and after his failure, he was sent home. Or so the other contestants thought. Nobody knew that producers had actually put Saad up in a hotel near the filming location. And for episode 10, they sent Saad back for a final appearance, a last chance at redemption. His friends on the show were excited to have him back, happy to have their friend back competing with them. They thought the final episode would be another fun challenge. But producers had different ideas. For the final episode, contestants were asked to run through a fiery path, swim through a pond, and climb a rope, all with a 15-pound bag of sand on their back, which feels insane to me, but I digress. Now let's not forget, Saad went on to Clear Man for the challenge, the thrill, the adventure, and that he was given. It was a hot day. The contestants stood there, sweating, waiting for the buzzer to go off. Saad was focused, ready for anything. He was going to claim that prize no matter the cost. The buzzer sounded, and he was off. He made it through the fire, going as fast as he could through the flames. Then came the pond, which contestants believed was not very deep. So, Saad felt safe entering the water, even though he was exhausted, slowed down by the sandbag. and he was doing a great job making his way across the water, determined to make it to the other side. But then he started to backstroke, and this is when his friends noticed something was wrong. Saad started to sink, and he panicked. He cried out for help, scared, desperate for someone to get him. Others yelled out that he needed to open his backpack, remove some of the weight. But Saad had pulled a muscle, and even worse, a strap from the sandbag had gotten tied around his ankles. And as he was sinking deeper into the water, splashing and trying to stay afloat, he couldn't get himself free. And just like that, he was under the surface. Other contestants jumped into the pond to try and save him, but the water was muddy. They had no idea where he was. And even worse than muddy, it was deep. Whatever the producers said about the pond being shallow and safe, it was a lie. As the other contestants were desperately looking for Saad, the realization sunk in. They had been lied to. After 10 minutes of tirelessly trying to find Saad, lifeguards finally arrived on the scene, and Saad was pulled out of the water, but he had already passed away. Everyone was in shock. What was supposed to be an adventure turned into a tragedy. A tragedy that no one wanted to take the blame for. The spokeswoman for Unilever made a statement denying that Saad's death was the company's fault. And although major news outlets in Pakistan were suspiciously slow to report on the tragic death, which most believe was Unilever allegedly actively paying people hush money, bloggers and independent journalists were quick to spread the story to try and get justice for Saad. Teeth Maestro, a group of bloggers, gave an opportunity for another contestant to share his perspective and opinion on what happened. When asked about safety precautions, he said, quote, "No, there was nothing present over there. We are given the surety that the pond is not very deep, and there was only first aid help in case of injury. No professional divers, no lifeguards, and no snorkelers. We only realized after this incident that during the 10 episodes, a similar incident could have happened with any of the participants, as precautionary and safety measures were non-existent. We never thought on these lines, maybe because of the comfort level we had on the big brand organizers, managers, and sponsors which were associated with this show. I wish Saad would have remained eliminated in order to avoid all what happened. Negligence and carelessness was the cause of Saad's death. What happened to Saad was preventable. He could still be here. If only the production company or someone from Unilever, anyone at all, took the extra time to make sure these challenges were safe. But they were more focused on making money, on filming dramatic content that would sell. It didn't matter if the contestants were safe, they needed to sell their shampoo. Because of their negligence, a father and a husband lost his life. So was anyone held responsible? Did anyone do any jail time for what happened on Clearman? Well, maybe someone would have if all the evidence hadn't disappeared. Not just the footage of Saad's death, but the entire show. Not a single episode from the show saw the light of day, which may be for the best. I wouldn't want anyone in production to make a cent. But it does leave some very unnerving questions. What were the other challenges? Was there anything else that was overtly dangerous that the company doesn't want us to see? Were the producers throwing these people into life or death situations without them realizing? And why did they lock up the footage? Was there, anything revealing or incriminating on that footage? Saad's family thought so. They requested to see it, but the request was denied. Why? Was there something they wanted to hide? Further evidence that Saad's death was on their hands? Well, I guess we'll never know. The other challenges were probably just as dangerous. And because of the lax legal protections in Pakistan, not a single person ever saw jail time for the incident. Hopefully, Saad's family receives justice in some way, because either the production company or Unilever, or better yet both, deserve to be held accountable. Daniel V. Jones. On April 30th, 1998, everything was normal as usual in Los Angeles, California. The weather was perfect spring weather, not too hot, not too cold. The people of LA were living their everyday lives, enjoying the sun, out and about, perhaps going to the park or taking a hike. But on the way down LA's highways, navigating heavy traffic, some may have been interrupted, stopped by a man in crisis. At around 3 p.m. that day, Daniel Jones parked his truck on a transition loop on the Harbor Freeway and prepared for his final moments. Daniel was 40 years old, spending his days in Long Beach, California, working maintenance at a hotel. He lived a quiet life with his Labrador in a 2-bedroom bungalow, tucked away in an alley along the coast. But his simple, peaceful life came to a halt when he had received terrible news. Earlier that year, Daniel had encountered some health problems, among them a flesh-colored growth on his neck. Hoping for the best, Daniel went to the doctor, but he walked out of that doctor's office, distraught, hopeless, and not sure where to turn. Daniel was diagnosed with cancer, as well as HIV. At first, Daniel went through the options. It didn't seem as if there were many, but he wanted to give it his best shot. The problem was Daniel was a low-income worker. His job as a maintenance worker, while exhausting and backbreaking, did not put him in a great financial position. He couldn't afford a premium healthcare plan. What he could afford was an HMO, which was a pretty terrible plan to have in his situation. HMOs can be okay for some, but usually for people that typically just need preventative care. Something like cancer and HIV, these things require specialists, appointments months in advance, medical equipment, things that are hard to get with HMO insurance. All of the options that Daniel needed seemed out of reach. He felt helpless, like the world had abandoned him. Even if he wanted to put up a fight, it wasn't just the disease he was up against. It was money, doctors, health insurance. It felt like too much. So on a warm April day on a Los Angeles freeway, Daniel was parked with nothing but a shotgun and his dog, preparing to commit S-word, hoping people would watch in the process. He wanted the world to see what it had done to him. He began by pointing his shotgun at drivers that passed by him, terrifying innocent people on the road. This garnered some attention, prompting people to call the police. It wasn't long until Daniel himself called law enforcement. He wasn't trying to hide, he wanted a scene. During the phone call with 911, he fired off his shotgun multiple times, making it clear that he was serious. He was a danger to himself and others. He talked to the operator, venting about his diagnosis, his insurance, his fate in the hands of doctors he couldn't afford. All of it. I'm not happy with what's happening to my situation, and I'm going to draw attention to it whichever way I can. My paramount goal is for no one other than myself to get hurt. Soon enough, the freeway was shut down. Law enforcement began to circle him, helicopters monitoring him. He had wanted a scene, and he got it. Now that all eyes were on him, he began to give them something to watch. He got out of the truck, walked across the empty highway, and put out a banner he had made for this event. The banner read, "HMOs are in it for the money. Live free, love safe, or die." In these last moments, not only did Daniel feel angry, but trapped. With these diseases, he couldn't be free. I'm not sure what love safe could mean. The speculation could really be endless, but I think it's clear he felt his freedom had been stripped. And now, he thought there was no reason to live. And now that he had shared his message, he went back into his truck, took out a Molotov cocktail, and the truck went up in flames. He stumbled out of the driver's seat on fire, but somehow he managed to pat himself down, peel his pants off, and survive the fiery explosion he created. He was visibly confused, walking around in pain, disoriented and in a daze. Not only that, but angry. He knew the world was watching. and he was pissed off, enraged at the American healthcare system, at the police, at everyone that got to live a life free of disease. Staggering around the freeway, he made obscene gestures, presumably towards the cameras he knew were capturing his every move. He was almost finished. The show was almost over. He looked out over the freeway, down below at the ground, thinking about what that jump would do. But he decided against that. He got off the ledge, went back to his truck, and pulled out his shotgun again. Walking a few feet away from his truck, he leaned the shotgun on the median, put the muzzle underneath his chin, and ended it all. The cameras captured every detail, and the scene was broadcasted onto live television. The helicopters, filled with reporters, were circling Daniel, watching a man's tragic last moments. It was what Daniel wanted, but it feels so wrong. Live free, love safe, or die was his last words. We'll never hear any more from him. Whatever more he had to say was lost forever. At least it would have been, because there were tapes found afterward. At one point, while he was walking around the freeway, he took a bag from his truck and threw it over the wall. Once investigating the scene, police found the bag, and inside was a videotape. All we know of the videotape is that it was some sort of last notes from Daniel. All that was made public was that he said, quote, "I'm not going to fight the disease. It has affected my neurological system. I'm not going to end up crazy. I'm a dead man. See ya." The rest is gone forever. I don't know if the police destroyed it, gave it to the family, or it's locked away. But I doubt the general public will ever see it. But it feels like Daniel wanted us to see that. He was in pain. That much is obvious. But his S word was more than just that. It was an outcry, a declaration that he was furious with the way he was treated, that everyone, including him, deserved a chance. A chance he didn't feel like he had. Maybe the tape was only made for family and friends, or maybe he had something more to say to us all. His death was supposed to be a message, and I can't help but wonder if there was more to the man we'll never get to see. I hope, for their sake, his family got to hear his final words he recorded on tape. Mackenzie House. For some people, ghosts only exist in movies. The idea of spirits floating around is nothing more than entertainment. Creaking sounds in an old house, running faucets when no one is home. Well, there's a reasonable explanation, but others will argue that some things are just unexplainable. They hear a distant voice from across the room or feel a cold tap on their shoulder. Well, I don't think anyone will know for sure until they cross over themselves. But for the people of Toronto, there's one big mystery still unsolved. In 1958, William Lyon Mackenzie moved into a two-story brick house on Bond Street in downtown Toronto. For all of his adult life, he was a government man, serving as Toronto's first mayor, but he was ousted when he tried to overthrow the Canadian government. Fighting for Upper Canadian independence from Great Britain, he lost, got arrested, and was exiled to the United States. He lived in New York and worked as a journalist. He was actually almost arrested again for violating US neutrality laws because he was literally forming an army to go fight the Canadian English. Again, he was arrested, this time for 10 months. But that's how passionate he was about Canadian independence. 11 years after his exile, Mackenzie was pardoned, and he returned to Toronto. Once again, he joined the Legislative Assembly of Upper Canada, which is basically the Canadian Congress. He ended up resigning when he decided the government was basically full of it. Nothing had changed, and he'd better stay out of politics. So there he was, starting a new life in his new house, hoping to leave his tumultuous past behind. But very soon after moving in, his health started to decline. Now, Mackenzie was a stubborn guy, so he refused to take any medication. And without medical care, William passed away in 1861, just 2 years after moving in, dying in the comfort of his own home. a home that some wanted to preserve, a monument to honor the memory of the city's first mayor. So William's grandson, William Lyon Mackenzie King, decided to take on that responsibility and make the home a historical site for years to come. His grandson became the Prime Minister of Canada in his first job in office, turning his grandfather's home into a museum. William's grandson hired live-in caretakers to work in the house, responsible for maintaining the museum. Starting out, the caretakers went about their job as normal, cleaning and maintaining the home, enjoying the routine of a simple job and free housing. But this wasn't like any house they had stayed in before. The Mackenzie house was haunted. One caretaker, Miss Edmund, was woken up one night by a soft touching on her shoulder. Quickly opening her eyes, there was a lady standing directly above her, staring right into her eyes. But before she could process what was happening, the lady was gone. It was like she had never been there. Maybe it was a dream, she thought, a reflection, a splotch of light that happened to look like a woman. But then, just a few weeks later, Miss Edmund jolted awake from another tap on the shoulder, and there she was, the lady, staring again, but this time, before she disappeared, she slapped Miss Edmund across the face and vanished. And it wasn't just Miss Edmund that was seeing things in the Mackenzie house. Bruce Beaton, a historical interpreter at the house, was in the home one night when he noticed the printing press operating by itself. But that's not all. A tourist of the museum shares their experience. Quote, "I went to the Mackenzie house 14 years ago, and to this day, I have never forgotten my experience there. I went with my father and sister just to get a feel for Toronto history. I remember walking in the door and saying to the tour guide, before she could say anything to us, 'Who died in this house?' She stated that William Lyon Mackenzie had more than likely died in the house, but there had never been proof of it. Then, as I was going up to the second floor, I had a weird sensation come over me. I looked to the second room, and I saw a young girl, early teens, standing by the dresser. I was convinced that it was his daughter, and the name Elizabeth kept popping into my head. Now, the reason I'm telling this story is because I'm not sure if it was my overactive imagination as a young teen myself, or if it was real. I've experienced many things in my time, but I've never quite been sure if it was just my imagination or a gift. Another thing about the Mackenzie house was the basement, where the kitchen is located. That room just freaked me right out, even from the outside. Enough people were having weird experiences in this house that in 1960, right before the home was bought by the city of Toronto, CBC got a reporter and an archdeacon from the Church of Holy Trinity to walk through the Mackenzie house and perform an exorcism. All of these odd sightings, strange feelings, taps on the shoulders, there was something living in William Mackenzie's Toronto home, and this archdeacon was gonna rid the house of it. The CBC reporters set up their cameras, and when they were rolling, the archdeacon began to pray. They walked the entire home, reciting prayers, blessing the space with holy water, trying to exorcise an unruly spirit. And then the ceremony was done, and finally, the house was quiet. A lot of reporters claim that nothing odd has happened since, and that's sort of true. Nothing like Miss Edmund's experience has happened. But that doesn't mean nothing weird has happened. Someone on a ghost tour says, quote, "I have the Ghost Meter Pro, a handheld EMF reader. It's interesting going upstairs into Mackenzie's bedroom. I didn't pick up any activity, but when I proceeded further to the left-hand side of the room by the front windows where people have claimed to have seen activity from outside on the street, it went off. It hit maximum capacity on the meter itself. The meter also went off downstairs by the kitchen area near the front window. People have witnessed movement here, shadows from the street, and things like that through these windows. So I would say the ghost meter is quite accurate." I know some may think that the EMF is a load of nonsense, but I personally have some crazy experiences with it. Honestly, this person's memory of the Mackenzie house sends shivers down my spine. So, are there still ghosts in the Mackenzie house, or was it ever real to begin with? There are supporters on both sides of the argument, and everyone asks the same question. What about the footage? What happened during the taping of the Mackenzie house? I described a little bit of the exorcism, but what actually happened? Was there any paranormal activity? Was anything caught on tape? Well, it would be helpful if we could see the footage, but it's been lost for decades. I don't know if it's destroyed or just forgotten, but it's gone. Lost to the public, never to be seen again. Whatever prayer that archdeacon said, whatever he performed, we'll never be able to see it. We'll never know what happened that day. What we do know, though, is that after the exorcism took place, the building was turned over to the city, and with it, an old list of all artifacts in the house. At the bottom of the list, one chilling item. One ghost. Exorcised. Hopefully, whoever wrote that got their wish after the archdeacon's visit. And if a ghost did exist in the Mackenzie house, it's finally put to rest. And I just wonder what was on that footage and where it is now. Fred and Rose West. Sometimes there are stories so tragic, so horrific, and so gut-wrenching, they seem too heartbreaking to be true. It's hard to believe what people are sometimes capable of, especially when they do so over and over again. Hurting family members, innocent children, assault, murder. It's hard to believe what monsters like this are capable of. Fred and Rose West are two of those monsters. Both Fred and Rose came from troubled and traumatizing childhoods. Growing up, Fred was assaulted by both his mother and father in brutal and horrific ways. This was true for Rose as well. Her father abused her, and it only got worse when her parents divorced. But the abuse didn't end with them. As Fred and Rose grew, they continued the cycle themselves. Each had a history of assaulting their younger siblings. Rose was especially devious, and Fred developed a history of assaulting girls from his neighborhood, something he freely admitted to. Quote, "Doesn't everybody do it?" They met when Fred was 27 and Rose was just 15. They met at a bus stop. Rose was actually turned off by him at first, but Fred was persistent, and the more attention he gave her, the more she began to like him. It was clear they had a lot in common. They both enjoyed making people suffer, having power over someone, and hurting those around them. The two began to date. Despite disapproval from Rose's parents, by the time she was 17, Rose was pregnant with her first child, Heather. And from there, their sick and twisted family began. In 1972, 2 years after Rose had their first child, the two married and moved into a 3-story townhome in the center of Gloucester, England. In 1971, Fred was arrested for petty theft, leaving Rose to take care of the children. Although Rose only had one child, Fred had 2 other children from previous marriages, Anna Marie and Charmaine. So Rose was left alone with 3 children, while she herself was only 18. It seems like such an innocent age, full of potential, eager to be a part of the world, but Rose was far from innocence. Without Fred around, tensions were high, and Rose was unable to keep her true nature, her violent nature, contained. These poor, sweet girls were forced to bear her sadistic temper. They were forced to maintain most household chores, and if they misbehaved in any way, they were beaten and whipped. Charmaine was the oldest of the 3, as well as the most strong-willed. Only 8 years old, she was brave, a daredevil. She wasn't scared of Rose. She believed that her biological mother would come save her, and until she did that, she would stand up against her evil stepmother. She was up against a monster, though, and there's only so much a little girl can do. In June of 1971, Rose had enough of Charmaine's behavior. She couldn't beat her into submission, so she wanted to get rid of her. Forever. Shortly before Fred was released from prison, Rose murdered Charmaine. She then waited for Fred to return home from jail so he could finish her job. He buried his daughter's body underneath their kitchen window. How could someone be so evil? So despicable. I could honestly make a whole video, maybe 2 videos, on the next 14 years of their lives. The two ended up murdering at least 12 young women, including their daughter, Heather, though some speculate there may have been as many as 20. It's truly disgusting the deeper it goes. I mean, these two are some of the most prolific serial killers in the history of the United Kingdom, and that title was earned. But what most people don't know, there's more than just the physical abuse, the violence, the murder. They also had an insatiable, perverted nature. A lot of the West's lives were built around fulfilling their perverted needs. After moving into their house, the two took the opportunity to make the second floor a brothel for Rose to sell herself. This wasn't just an opportunity for the pair to make extra income. Rose's intimate drive was endless. She had a former lover, Catherine Halliday, who shared that Rose would frequently complain that she was never truly satisfied. Despite having intimate time with really anyone she could get her hands on, it was never enough. Fred wasn't much different. He didn't mind Rose's need to sleep with other people. In fact, he loved it. Their house was essentially designed for them to have intimate time as much as possible. Their bedroom was designed with an intercom system, so Fred could listen in on Rose with her clients. There were also peepholes set up so he could spy on her, often without the other party's knowledge. At this point, they have 8 children they need to take care of, but Mom, if you can even call her that, was upstairs selling herself. Clients are coming in and out of the house, and Dad is listening, doing God knows what. 8 young children living in the den of their parents' fantasies, forced to hear and see things a child should never see. In the West, didn't want to keep their gross business private. They wanted publicity, exposure. So Fred purchased a video camera and began to film their intimate escapades, usually Rose's work with clients. Sometimes he would openly record with the client's consent. Other times, the camera would be hidden. If it sounds like they were proud of the content they produced, it's because they were. Fred often bragged about what they made, eager to show others. This is where things get scary. Fred would frequent an adult film store, often trying to sell the tapes to them, hoping that they would be interested. And not only were they not interested, they were freaked out because Fred wasn't making normal adult content. Fred was insistent he had access to darker films. He said he could get legitimate films of women being beaten, tortured, or murdered, and he could because he was making them. Catherine Halliday shared that during her time with the Wests, she remembers watching some of the tapes, but she doesn't remember them being simple adult films, but rather deeply dark. They were often graphic, violent, with women who seemed forced into situations. And who knows how many? We know the people he murdered, we know the names, but there are countless others on those tapes that remain a mystery to us and law enforcement. But not only that, he would boast that these films didn't just contain him and Rose or other lovers, clients, and other consensual acts. He claimed they contained footage of his daughters. So not only were they child murderers, they were predators too. I know these are evil people, and it shouldn't be too shocking. Like, these two are infamous for a reason, but it still just makes me beyond sick to think about. Fred and Rose obviously weren't in the business of just selling themselves out and making adult films. They were disturbed, vile monsters who brought their children into their disgusting life. There will never be 100% certainty of what was on these tapes because all evidence of them has been destroyed. They are gone forever. When the Wests were finally arrested in 1994, law enforcement seized all of the footage. There were around 100 tapes, not 10, not 20, triple digits worth of horror. And considering the murders, all the crimes committed by the couple, you might think police would want these tapes to help lock these people away. But no, They briefly looked over the tapes and decided it was mostly consensual acts and then destroyed them. All chances of possibly finding more victims, more incriminating proof against the West was gone. These tapes were key evidence, and law enforcement recklessly handled them, failing to bring justice to those harmed by these disgusting creatures. There was one tape that was not destroyed, however. It was a collection of multiple assaults, spliced together into one sick, sadistic mixtape. In early 2000, it was found in the house of a predator. I guess some of Fred's efforts to distribute these tapes were successful, and this tape in particular contained footage of Rose harming her children. When law enforcement found these, they said, quote, "We are interested to find out who the girls are. It has always been thought the West were involved in the abduction and murder of more young women and girls than was ever proved. Fred West spoke of more than 20 before he committed S-word. So it is important to find out who the girls are on the film. They may have been murdered. Most of their victims were in their teens, but we are now wondering if they could have been involved in the abduction and murder of small children." It's almost as if the footage Fred filmed was important evidence in the case against the West, but for some reason, no one thought this when they discovered the hundreds of other films. But regardless, what happened to the Wests? Well, despite there being no physical evidence of the West committing harm against minors, their children testified that there was in fact a terrifying amount happening in the West household. In court, Anna Marie, the second oldest, testified that she'd been brutalized by her father her whole life. According to her, Rose facilitated the whole thing, afterwards telling her, quote, "I'm sorry. Everybody does it to every girl. It's a father's job. Don't worry, and don't say anything to anybody." I can only imagine that's the tip of the iceberg for Anna Marie and all of her siblings. Thankfully, their parents were arrested in 1994. Fred was charged with 12 murders and Rose with 10. Like the coward he is, Fred unalived himself before his conviction, but Rose was given a life sentence. Both of these monsters would be gone forever, although that pain will be carried forever. When Anna Marie was 35 years old, she had been so exhausted, so worn down from the weight of all that she endured, that she tried to get rid of it for good. Sadly, 5 years after her parents' arrest, the pain of the abuse she endured was too much to bear. She attempted to commit S-word at the Westgate Bridge in Gloucester. Thankfully, a bystander saw her and firemen arrived in time to save her. She recovered from the incident and today is still living with the memory of pain they left her. After her attempt, Anna Marie said, quote, "People say I'm lucky to have survived, but I wish I died. I can still taste the fear, still feel the pain. It's like I'm going back to being a child again. I have always had to be strong, but I'm not. I'm really scared." It's unknown whether more tapes are floating out there. If they made it to one predator, there might be more, dispersed among others in the UK. For right now, it looks like no more tapes exist, but if they do, hopefully they can make it into the hands of law enforcement so the cycle of abuse can stop. And hopefully, one day, all of the victims can find some peace. And alright guys, with that final horrifying case, that wraps up the horrors of lost media. I hope you somewhat enjoyed today's video as much as you could. I mean, it was deeply disturbing, but comment down below your thoughts on today's video. Would you like to see more videos like this in the future? And if so, like I said, comment down below. I read every single comment. And please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps more than you know. And please follow my Instagram and follow me on Spotify and rate the podcast 5 stars. I appreciate it so much. And I appreciate you watching to the end of the video. It means more than you know. And I just want to say thank you so much for watching the channel. And if you enjoyed this video, I'm sure you'll enjoy other videos on the channel. So please go check out some other videos. And yeah, this was Snook, and I'll see you next time. Bye.